Hey truckers, today we're seeing part 4 of From Enemies to Lovers, a hidden marriage story. Let's dive into the video. Chiang Mai looked dejected and spoke with a hoarse voice. Do you want to be his girlfriend? How could that be possible? Ning Shi looked sideways at him. I still have self-knowledge. Chiang Mai frowned. I don't mean that. I don't mean you are not good enough, but Lu Tingxiao is too calculative and dangerous. The environment in the Lu family is not suitable for you. Bro, thanks for flattering me. I clearly know what kind of person I am in my heart. Ning Shi interrupted him and her expression recovered. Relax. Loving someone doesn't mean losing my mind. I know what I'm doing and what I should do from now on. When Chiang Mai heard her words, he wasn't at all happy. Instead, he felt like his chest was stuffed with a sponge soaking up water, which made him unhappy. What kind of person you are? You work hard to make progress. You seem to be cynical and heartless, but you actually pay close attention to detail and are clear about what to love or hate. You deserve the most suitable man for you. Ning Shi froze for a moment and then looked surprised. Golden hair, what a surprise. My image in your heart is so great. Aren't you falling in love with me? You updates tnvel/buy.com. Chiang Mai's back instantly became rigid. F******************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************* moment, then looked at him in a subtle way. To paraphrase what you said before, what do you know about me, Jiang Mai? How much do you know about me? You only see the side that I'm letting you see. Do you really think I'm exactly what I show? The moment Ningxi looked at Jiang Mai, he almost thought that she had seen through his heart and that she had deliberately said what she had to remind him to completely give up on his idea. Lu Mansion. Lu Tingxiao was sitting on the sofa in the living room, holding a German book and reading it attentively. On the other hand, Lu Jingli spent the whole night wandering the house, appearing as though he had been stabbed in the butt with a needle. Brother, the man Xiao Cici is meeting with his Jiang Mai, that boy. Don't you want to know what they're talking about? I have a hunch. The topic of conversation will be very thrilling. And it'll mean a lot to you. Lu Tingxiao turned a page, not raising his head at all. It's all your fault, brother. You're too old-fashioned. I said that I wanted to bug the place, but you stopped me. Now you can only stay at home and be anxious. Lu Jingli complained. Although, according to the present situation, it seemed only he, himself, was suffering from anxiety. Finally, even Lu Tingxiao, who was so patient, could no longer bear the noise. Keep silent or go back. No. I won't go. He still wanted to wait for Xiao Cici to return so he could fish for information. Otherwise, how could he sleep tonight? It's almost 11 o'clock. Why haven't they returned? While Lu Jingli was scratching his head, his phone rang. It was an unknown number. Who's calling me so late? Lu Jingli picked up his mobile phone and went to the yard to answer it. 10 minutes later, Lu Jingli rushed in like he'd been injected with a stimulant. It really came right on time. Brother, guess what I just got? It's the recording of the wiretap from the box Xiao Cici and Jiang Mai are using. I didn't set it up, it was secretly recorded by an innocent paparazzo from a gossip company. Luckily, his boss is sensible and stopped it immediately after receiving it, then called me to apologize in order to suck up to me. When Lu Tingxiao heard his words, he didn't even blink and coldly spoke 2 words with his thin lips. Destroy it. N/W novel chapter S are published on no/vel/bin.co/m. Lu Jingli immediately felt like a basin of cold water had been dumped on him. What? Even God is helping you. You won't even listen to this? Lu Tingxiao looked colder. Need I say it twice? Noticing that his brother was really angry, Lu Jingli hurriedly nodded like a chicken pecking rice. Okay, okay, okay. I'll destroy it. I'll destroy. AI, he didn't know what to say about his brother. Apart from when he was in front of Xiao Shishi, he was too principled and inflexible at any other time. Nevertheless, he was different from him. He said yes, but in his heart, he knew he wouldn't really destroy it. TSK, it was okay to secretly keep it. It would come in handy someday. While Lu Jingli was sighing, a small figure suddenly ran like the wind downstairs and outside. Is Xiao Shishi back? Lu Jingli hurriedly followed Little Treasure. When he reached the gate, he saw that it really was Ningxi, sitting in Jiang Mai's car. He couldn't see anything unusual about their expressions, but Jiang Mai seemed to have drunk a lot, while Ningxi seemed to have drunk very little. Ningxi left the car and picked up Little Treasure, who had rushed to greet her, saying with resignation and love, "Darling, it's already 11 o'clock. Why did you stay up so late again? Didn't we agree that you wouldn't wait for me?" Little Treasure clung to Ningxi's arms, tightly wrapped his arms around her, and stared at Jiang Mai behind her. His little face was full of vigilance and rejection. Jiang Mai curled his lips. How freaking unfair. This was an incomparable aid for Lu Tingxiao. An incomparable aid. Lu Jingli read Jiang Mai's mind with just one look, and came to pat him sympathetically on the shoulder. My condolences, that you have no son. Jiang Mai's heart jolted. What do you mean? Lu Jingli came close to his ears and whispered, Don't pretend. You like Ningxi, don't you? Jiang Mai panicked, then put on a straight face. Second uncle, are you kidding me? How could I like her? Lu Jingli touched his chin with a contemplative expression. It was strange, really strange. What the hell had happened between them? It was obvious that Jiang Mai, that guy, liked her, but he wasn't willing to admit it even now. Ningxi was about to walk inside with Little Treasure in her arms when the phone in her bag rang. She casually pressed the answer key. Hello, who is this? Hello, is this Miss Ningxi? Your boyfriend got into a car accident and is currently being treated at the hospital. Please come immediately. Ningxi looked puzzled. What? My boyfriend? Immediately, Lu Jingli, Jiang Mai, Lu Tingxiao, and even Little Treasure all focused their eyes on Ningxi. Ningxi coughed, embarrassed. Ahem, aren't you mistaken? I don't have a boyfriend. But the number that the patient left before passing out was yours, you had better come soon. Our hospital's address is... After that, the person on the phone hung up in a hurry. Ningxi held her phone and stood there with an overwhelmed expression. Holy shit! Who the hell is he? Jiang Mai leaned against his car and hummed as he looked askance at her. He's one of your exes, isn't he? He left your number when he almost died in an accident. He really is desperate for you. Ningxi kicked him. Be less sarcastic. Then, Xiao Shishi, will you go? Lu Jingli's eyes were sparkling. Although he was asking her, his expression said that he really hoped she would go. Ningxi painfully pinched the skin between her eyebrows. A human life is of greater value than anything. I had better go. What if he is someone I know? But what to do with Little Treasure? Before she could continue, Little Treasure tightly threw his arms around her neck, as if, after finally seeing her return, he would never separate from her. Little Treasure wouldn't let go no matter what, so Ningxi would have to go with him. Little Treasure wanted to follow her, so Lu Tingxiao definitely needed to join them. And Lu Jingli actively volunteered to drive them. Jiang Mai saw that the three people of the Lu family were all unashamedly ready to go, so he decidedly also squeezed into the car. The final result was that everyone went with her. Ningxi was speechless. At the hospital, several ambulances were at the door, the paramedics were bustling about, and the stretchers were full of bleeding patients, as if there had been a major traffic accident. Ningxi put her hands over Little Treasure's eyes, to keep him from seeing these bloody things, and softly coaxed him. "Darling, it's very messy now in the hospital. Would you please wait for me in the car?" Little Treasure held her waist, his little head drooping as if he was being abandoned. He was actually so sleepy that he dozed off, but he still refused to sleep. Ningxi leaned over and kissed his little face. "Little Treasure, listen to me. I'll be back very soon." Little Treasure, who had been kissed, recovered a bit and nodded. "Then, I'm going," Ningxi said to all of them. "Lu Tingxiao, I'll go with you." "Jiang Mai, I want to go, too." Both spoke almost simultaneously. "Ningxi, you going alone is unsafe." Lu Tingxiao frowned. Jiang Mai snorted and said, "I just want to see who the hell he is." Ningxi's head hurt. She looked at Lu Tingxiao and then looked at Jiang Mai. Her eyes finally fell on Lu Jingli. Lu Jingli innocently blinked. Why was his sister-in-law looking at him? At last, Ningxi spoke. "I don't know the situation inside. It's really improper for me to go alone. So, second young master, please come with me. Lu Tingxiao, you'd better stay here to accompany Little Treasure." There was a flicker of darkness in Lu Tingxiao's eyes. "Okay. As for you, Jiang Mai, stop this. Don't you know how easily your face creates trouble? Running to a hospital so late at night, you want to create headlines, don't you?" Jiang Mai looked angry. "Why are you so mad at me? But you speak so softly to Lu Tingxiao. Why? Go, go, go! Xiao Cici, I'll go with you. I'll go with you." Lu Jingli exulted. He was so excited that he almost danced on the spot. Happiness came too suddenly. It was really a quarrel which benefited only the third party. In the hospital's emergency room, it was a mess. It took Ningxi a long time to find the doctor who had called her before. "Hello, I'm Ningxi. Where is the friend you mentioned before?" "You're Ningxi. He has been through surgery and is now in Ward 307 on floor 12. Go identify him quickly. He has nothing to prove his identity." "Okay, thank you." Read the latest stories and novelbin.com. Ningxi and Lu Jingli hurried to go upstairs, but the elevator was so crowded that they had to climb the stairs. 12 floors. How miserable. Ningxi was terribly tired, while Lu Jingli was still cheerful like it was nothing. She finally understood why Lu Jingli had been able to run Glory World Entertainment with such excellence. This guy's passion for gossip was simply unmatched. They finally arrived at Ward 307. Out of breath, Ningxi bent over, and unable to wait any longer, Lu Jingli pushed the door open before she could straighten up. A second later, Ningxi still hadn't seen who was inside when Lu Jingli's face suddenly sank and he closed the door. He grabbed her shoulders and pushed her outside, saying, "Xiao Shishi, go, 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 forget about it." This junior master was looking forward to it all this time, but it turned out to be this thing. Let him die. Who is it? Why are you acting like this? Well, you won't regret leaving, regardless. Su Yan, guessed Ningxi. Lu Jingli straightened his face. Hell yeah, it's him. Now we can go. We can't leave if it's him. Ningxi pushed Lu Jingli's hands off her shoulders and turned to walk inside the ward. Lu Jingli anxiously stomped his feet. Xiao Shi, why do you care about him? It's still not over between you two? Ningxi didn't answer and walked straight into the ward. It was Su Yan in the ward. Lying quietly on the bed, his head was covered by a thin veil and an 4-drip was in his hand. Ningxi lightly sat on the edge of the bed and reached out to fix his hair. The look on her face was gentle, and she spoke even more gently, Brother Yan. Lu Jingli. What the F*** did I just see? What did I hear? Ningxi still liked this guy? Luckily, his brother wasn't with them, otherwise he would get mad. As Lu Jingli was thinking, a wave of iciness blew in from behind him. He turned his head and saw. His brother was right there. Bro, why are you here? Little Treasure was in his arms and Jiang Mai was behind him. All three of them had come. He imagined that Little Treasure had been unable to wait any longer and wanted to come up, so his brother brought him and Jiang Mai followed them. Now, it was over. In bed, Su Yan looked pale and frowned, slowly opening his eyes. Xiao Shi. How are you feeling? Asked Ningxi. Su Yan looked at the girl before him in a daze. Am I dreaming? Every time he met Ningxi, they argued and things would end unhappily. He couldn't remember how long it had been since she last spoke to him so nicely. The moment he woke up, he saw concern for him in her eyes. She even called him Brother Yan. Ningxi stood next to the bed and returned to being her cool self. You just had an operation, the doctors said that you're fine now. You only have a small concussion remaining and need to stay in the hospital for a bit longer to recover. If there's nothing else, I should go. She turned away as she finished speaking, but suddenly her wrist was grabbed. Don't leave me. Xiao Shi, don't go. Anything else? Su Yan struggled, then watched her as he let everything out in one breath. Although I know you don't care for or need it, I'm sorry. I still want to tell you that I'm sorry. I misunderstood you. You know what? When I thought I was going to die, at that moment, I couldn't think of anything except how I still haven't had a chance to apologize to you. Outside the door, Lu Jingli looked at Ningxi's wrist, which was being grabbed by Su Yan. He quaking in fear and swallowed, then turned and saw his brother's face. As expected, it was abnormally scary. He was really mad. What was Xiao Shi thinking? Su Yan, you don't need to apologize. Even if you were given a second chance, you would still choose to believe in Ningxi Luo. Su Yan hurriedly explained, I wouldn't. Don't say that you wouldn't, take this incident as an example. Ningxi Luo told you that she was innocent and put all the blame on Shui Kaijing, correct? And you believed her again, right? If I told you that she lied to you, would you believe me? Ningxi spoke slowly and clearly. Su Yan subconsciously avoided her eyes and said firmly, I will put more effort into investigating the matter. Ningxi smiled and shook her head. True belief doesn't need investigation. Back when you chose to believe in her, you didn't listen to me at all. Xiao Shi, Brother Yan. Xiao Shi. Su Yan suddenly raised his head. This time, he clearly heard it, she called him Brother Yan. Ningxi looked out the window, into the darkness, and felt as if she'd gone back in time. Her voice became blurry. Brother Yan, do you remember? When I was 9, I really wanted that backpack with my idol's picture printed on it, but my parents wouldn't buy it for me. Then 50 yuan went missing in the house. My grandma was sure that I stole it, my parents became suspicious, and even Xiao Nua was always on my side. Even he thought that I took the money, because he knew that I really liked that male star. Su Yan couldn't bear to continue to listen. After hearing just half the story, his body was shaking and his eyes had turned red. Ningxi laughed at herself, seeming to lose her voice. Only you, back then, only you believed that I didn't take the money. You took me out of the house, went to all the kids who came to play at my house, and knocked on one door after another until you found the kid who took the money. You know what? Back then, I thought that when I grew up, this guy in front of me would be my future husband. Xiao Shi, stop. Su Yan closed his eyes in embarrassment. Outside the door, Lu Jingli was screaming inside, "Sister-in-law, stop. I'm afraid the whole hospital will disappear overnight." Just then, Lu Tingxiao's energy was horrifying, even overshadowing Jiang Mai's jealousy. Lu Jingli coughed lightly and stepped further away from his brother. While everyone was looking into the ward, Little Treasure, who was standing next to Lu Tingxiao, threw off his father's hand and quickly ran into the ward. Like a wolf pup, the little guy swiftly snatched Ningxi's hand, then tightly clasped his arms around Ningxi's thigh. He stared at Su Yan angrily, with rage flaming in his pretty eyes. Darn it! Little Treasure, Lu Jingli was really scared, but as he was going to run after him, Lu Tingxiao blocked him with his arm. Lu Jingli understood in a second that it would become more complicated if he also went in. Little Treasure, who ran inside all of a sudden, scared Ningxi. Darling, why are you here? She looked out through the little window in the door and saw Lu Tingxiao and the others all standing in the corridor. Little Treasure looked up at Ningxi with his little head thrown back. Tears welled up in his eyes and he soon started crying, the tears falling down his cheeks in big drops. Ningxi saw them and became worried. "Ai, don't cry. What is it? Be good, don't cry. Auntie will take you home right away." Ningxi held Little Treasure in her arms and prepared to leave when Su Yan called her to stop after finally returning to his senses. "Xiao Shi. This kid, who is he?" Ningxi subconsciously raised Little Treasure's face to her shoulder, gently patted his back, and answered casually, "My friend's kid. I have to go, get well soon. I will inform Ningxu Alua to come here later." After Ningxi left, Su Yan stared at the door, still in shock. What was with that kid? Why, for a split second, did he think that the kid actually resembled Ningxi, especially in the eye area? He recalled the horrible memory of that dead fetus from 5 years ago. If that fetus hadn't died, it would have been around the same age. Sheet, what was he thinking about? It was simply mad. That fetus died 5 years ago. Yes, died, it was already dead, there was no way it could have survived. Ningxi came out 5 seconds after Little Treasure had run in. Lu Jingli couldn't help but snap his fingers at Little Treasure, "Well done." Ningxi looked at Lu Tingxiao's face and knew instantly that he was going to criticize Little Treasure. She hurriedly defended Little Treasure before he could speak. "Don't blame Little Treasure, he's just a kid. He didn't disturb me at all." Lu Tingxiao looked helpless. "You are spoiling him." Funny, when he criticized Ningxi, he didn't sound at all angry. Jiang Mai, who was standing at the side, saw how Lu Tingxiao contained all of his anger as soon as Ningxi came out. He even looked loving instead. The speed at which he changed his expression was faster than turning a page in a book. The shock he felt was indescribable. "Fake, so fake. You treat him so strictly, I'm just making up for it." Ningxi touched Little Treasure's head and a hint of sorrow unnoticeably flashed across her eyes. If she didn't spoil little treasure now, she never would. She wouldn't be able to in the future. After leaving the hospital, they returned to the car and Ningxi carried little Bun in her arms, trying to put him to sleep. He passed out very quickly. Lu Jingli had held it in for so long and finally couldn't bear it anymore. He looked at Ningxi through the rearview mirror and asked in a rush, "Xiao Shishi," calling him Brother Yan and reminiscing with him, what was all that about? Has your lost love for him rekindled? In the passenger seat, Jiang Mai humphed. Rekindled my ass. I was also almost fooled by her, she was acting like a little white flower again. Not just that, she even added a beauty trap on top. Ningxi held her jaw and lifted her eyebrows in surprise. My golden retriever got smarter, he even saw through me. Sitting next to Ningxi, Lu Tingxiao still looked a bit cold. He discovered with a single glance that Ningxi wasn't being sincere with Su Yan. What really upset him was the beauty trap. She used it on someone other than him. Most up-to-date novels are published on n0velgen.co/m. I still need to call Ningxi Alua. Ningxi still had little treasure in her arms, she moved slightly to grab her phone. Give him to me. Lu Tingxiao took little treasure from her. She dialed the number and Ningxi Alua's sharp voice sounded on the other end. Ningxi? Heh, why do you call me? To show off? B*TCH. You must be so pleased to see me lose everything, huh? I'm telling you, don't be so happy just yet. You think that Brother Yan, Mummy, and Daddy will believe your nonsense? You are just a shameless bumpkin who found. Ningxi let her finish her curses before speaking up slowly, but surely. Miss Ning, let me remind you that you are on speaker right now, and that Su Yan is right next to me. Ningxi Alua. There was a long silence on the other end on the phone, then she hung up. It was hard to imagine Ningxi Alua's face after hearing those words, and how panicked she must have been when she hung up the phone. PFF. Xiao Shishi, you are so bad. You probably scared that woman so bad, said Lu Jingli in admiration. You call this bad? You are so green and inexperienced. Now, I will show you something much worse. Ningxi bit her lip and pressed a key on her phone. The next second, a recording of her conversation with Ningxi Alua started to play. Yup, she'd recorded it. She had originally planned to call Ningxi Alua in front of Su Yan, then put her on speaker and let Su Yan hear her directly, but Little Treasure's entrance had changed the plan. Good thing was, it hadn't changed the result. Ningxi edited the recording a little before sending it to Su Yan, then sighed in pity. Pity that I can't use this kind of trick on her anymore, she will be more cautious when talking to me from now on. Just this once is still great though. She'd expected from the start that Ningxi Alua wouldn't admit to framing her, so today she'd wanted to solidly plant a seed of doubt in Su Yan's heart. Now all she needed to do was watch two dogs bite at each other. Lu Jingli shivered and his voice shook. Xiao Shishi, if I ever do anything to upset you, please tell me straight or beat me up to release your anger, don't use such evil tricks on me. I'm scared. Ningxi laughed lightly and replied straightforwardly, don't worry, for your brother's sake, I won't care too much about you. Lu Jingli's eyes brightened. My brother has such a privilege? Ningxi glared at him resentfully. Of course, he's my boss, my life savior. For him, I'm willing to work like a horse. After hearing her answer, a beam of light streaked across Lu Tingxiao's eyes like a meteor, leaving an endless darkness in its wake. Even though she usually tried to act cautiously, he'd still noticed that her attitude towards him had changed after she'd returned tonight. From bringing Lu Jingli with her to the hospital, to purposely acting close to Su Yan, she'd even acted like a schemer to make him resent her, then casually brought up his position as her boss to clarify the boundary between them. It was like he'd steeped a frog in warm water, nurtured it, and slowly allowed it to get used to his presence and accept him subconsciously, but then it learned his tricks and began to distance itself from him. No doubt about it, she was a good student, able to apply what she learned in real practice. It was like he'd bitten his own tail, trapping himself in a cage he'd personally designed. He knew clearly what she was doing, but couldn't do anything to stop her. Late night, Lu Mansion. Ningxi was lying in her big bed, counting sheep. She couldn't sleep. She picked up her phone and opened WeChat. She browsed the moments for a bit and was absent-minded, then typed, "Had I not seen the sun, I could have borne the shade, but light a newer wilderness, my wilderness has made." It was a poem by a female poet, Emily Dickinson. Ningxi wasn't sure why, but it suited her mood unexpectedly well. The first one to comment was Lu Jingli. Most up-to-date NVELs are published on n0velgen.co/m. Everything comes back to life, flowers blossom in warm spring, now is the time when animals. Bah. I smell love. The corner of Ningxi's mouth twitched. Lu Jingli, this bastard, replied so fast. Didn't he need to sleep? To her surprise, Jiang Mai wasn't asleep either, even though it was so late. He commented, "So sour that my freaking teeth are falling off." Ningxi was gonna send a few words back at Jiang Mai, but something suddenly caught her attention. She heard a creak as someone pushed her door open. Ningxi subconsciously put her phone down and held her breath. She wasn't alarmed or guarded, but rather, nervous. She recognized Lu Tingxiao's footsteps. Why was Lu Tingxiao coming to her room at this hour? It was 3 in the morning. The strangest thing was, Lu Tingxiao would usually never enter without knocking. Just as Ningxi was in complete confusion, that familiar figure came to her bedside. She didn't have the lights on in her room and there was no moon tonight, so it was so dark in the room that she could only see a blurry shadow. That shadow stood there quietly, motionless. Ningxi's heart was in her throat. She was about to make some noise to break the grueling silence, when she suddenly had a realization and an idea formed in her head. Lu Tingxiao was a sleepwalker. She swallowed the words back quickly, so as to not wake him. But what did he want? All test NOVL on novelben/.cm. After around 5 seconds, Lu Tingxiao took another step forward, sat down on the edge of her bed, opened half of the covers, and then lay down next to her, just like that. Ningxi. He wasn't even finished yet. As soon as Lu Tingxiao lay down, he reached out with his long arm and pulled her into his embrace, holding her tightly like he would hold a pillow. Ningxi. Ningxi's face was seamlessly forced against Lu Tingxiao's chest. His steady breathing was above her head and his hot palm was on her waist. Ningxi was overcome with his cool smell mixed with a light scent of the cologne he used. I'm going to die young. I'm going to go mad. On the inside, Ningxi wildly ran 800 miles while shouting to the sky, but in reality, she had to endure to the point of getting internal injuries. Thinking back to the first time Lu Tingxiao had sleepwalked, she was sure it had been because what you thought of during day was what you were going to dream of at night, and had told Lu Tingxiao to find himself a woman the next day. Now, she finally understood. Understood the true meaning of what you thought during day was what you were going to dream of at night. So, who could tell her what she should do now? Wait it out and let Lu Tingxiao walk away on his own? It was okay to do nothing when she still didn't know anything, but now that she knew about it, how could she do nothing? Ningxi tested out the situation and tried to move her body away, but the result was that while she was pouring sweat and out of breath, a certain someone was still motionless. She didn't want to wake him up, so she couldn't use too much strength. Without options, Ningxi gave up. AI, forget it, let him sleep then. He won't remember anything after he wakes up anyways. Outside the window, a breeze fiddled with the gloomy clouds and the moon reached its head out from behind them, sprinkling silver moonlight all over the room. Lu Tingxiao's face was so close that it was right in front of her, catching her unprepared. Ningxi's heart sped up, like a beating drum. She was afraid her heartbeat would wake him up. Unsure whether it was because of the beautiful moonlight or because of this man in front of her, Ningxi couldn't help but touch the man's cheek with her hand. Lu Tingxiao. Right now, no matter what she did, he wouldn't remember or retain a memory, right? Then it meant that she could do whatever she wanted? This thought woke up the wild beast which had been locked up at the bottom of her heart. Ningxi touched the man's forehead, eyebrows, eyes, nose, and finally stopped at his lips. As time passed, Ningxi slowly inched closer to the man, before stopping just 1 centimeter away from his lips. To kiss, or not to kiss? That was the question. It's not nice to take advantages from him, right? But he came into my bed himself, I didn't force him? And he bit me last time. Sheet, what am I doing? Sex really does drive people nuts. It's driving me nuts. Ningxi talked to herself for a long time before she laid back down to her original spot. The man beside her relaxed his body and was very disappointed at the same time. It felt unbearable being turned on halfway. However, in the next second, the girl who had given up and peacefully returned, moved all of a sudden, harshly locking her warm lips with his. The tip of her tongue licked his lips, biting on them several times as a test, then she tried to open his mouth. Lu Tingxiao almost lost it. The feeling of not being able to kiss back while being kissed so fiercely was killing him. The girl wasn't a good kisser, she was just licking and biting, but that still turned him on big time. After kissing, Ningxi wiped her mouth and laid back down contentedly, murmuring to herself, who cares if I'm nuts or not? Such a good opportunity, it's better to make good use of it and kiss up. So I can leave no regrets in my life. After hearing that, Lu Tingxiao didn't know if he should laugh or get angry. Just some kisses, then no more regrets? My dear, your life's goal was really nothing. I want to give you so much more, newest tirais at n/vel/b/i/n.co. It was even harder for Ningxi to go to sleep after kissing him, so she started browsing the news on her phone. As expected, Ning Xuelua immediately came out with some statements, putting all the blame on Cui Kaijing and making herself out to be a victim again. This time, however, Glory World wasn't going to let her get away with this. Liang Feixing was the best at controlling the direction of public opinion. Under Liang Feixing's management, Ning Xuelua's statement didn't have any effect. Mostly people thought that she was trying to get out of taking responsibility. After all, why would a nobody assistant put so much effort into taking revenge for just a few criticisms? Some people thought that Ning Xuelua did it for Jia Qingqing, for their friendship, while some thought that Ning Xuelua was jealous because Ning Shi was better looking than her. Others even thought that Su Yan liked Ning Shi, and that was why Ning Xuelua wanted to get rid of her. Ning Xuelua's gentle, generous image was severely jeopardized. Aside from this situation, fans were mostly concerned about future developments involving the world, as was Ning Shi. The company was dealing with it, they just hadn't gotten a confirmation yet. She'll call Lin Jiji tomorrow to figure this out then. After browsing the news, Ning Shi logged onto Weibo and found that her number of fans had increased a lot through this incident. A lot of new passers-by fans had written all sorts of encouraging comments. Ning Shi thought for a while and posted a Weibo. It's better to keep our dignity and beauty rather than care about the treachery or unkindness of others. That which can't kill us will in the end make us stronger. There were a lot of people who slept late on Weibo, and the number of forwards and likes on her post climbed rapidly. Less than 5 minutes after she posted, Chiang Mai also forwarded it with a decent message of support. Below the forward, the fans were too excited they cried. The couple in the movie had actually entered the same company in reality, then wasn't there even more of a chance of something happening between them? To Ningxi's surprise, among the hot comments below her Weibo post, in addition to caring for and supporting her as well as gossiping about her and Chiang Mai, the most popular comment on the top of the list was unexpectedly, "Goddess, goddess. Lu Tingxiao actually forwarded the Weibo message about you last time. Have you ever seen Big Boss Lu at Glory World Entertainment? Have you ever spoken to him? Is he handsome or not, handsome or not? Begging for photos. Begging for fortune." Ningxi's head was covered in black lines. "Have I ever seen Big Boss Lu? Of course I've seen him. He's lying next to me, you silly human. Send photos? Forget it. A male god must of course be kept to oneself." Ningxi muttered to herself as she continued to browse online. As a result, the more she looked, the more energetic she became. She shouldn't have browsed Weibo when she couldn't sleep. What she needed now was a book on advanced mathematics. As she fretted, there was an incoming call, the caller ID showing that it was Chiang Mai. Fortunately, she had put her phone on silent. Ningxi accepted the call and lowered her voice. "Hey. What do you want? I was also going to ask you, why aren't you asleep yet, so late at night?" Ningxi rolled her eyes. "I could say the same to you. Why is your voice so low?" Chiang Mai asked suspiciously. "Do you want me to shout at you so late at night? Something's off," Chiang Mai said in a firm tone, like he was Sherlock Holmes. "There's someone next to you." Hearing this, Ningxi cursed in her heart, then said with conviction, "I'm sleeping with Lil Bun." "How? Do you need to be so surprised? Really?" Ningxi suddenly felt that the hand on the waist seemed to have tightened a bit, and she almost lost concentration. She hurriedly replied, "If not, then what? Can the person lying beside me be Lu Tingxiao? You're too paranoid." Chiang Mai curled his lip, also figuring that he was thinking too much himself. "I was just asking. By the way." Ningxi suddenly thought of something, and frowned. "How's your family situation?" Chiang Mai was silent for a while, and then replied, almost resolved already. "After I met with you last night, that partner who had been refusing to let go all this time suddenly relented. This is really a coincidence." Meaning, Lu Tingxiao had obviously guessed something. "Then that's good." Ningxi was relieved. "Then are you free tomorrow?" Chiang Mai snorted. "Why?" "I'm very busy." "Oh, then forget it." Saying that, Ningxi was about to hang up the phone. "Wait, I'll be free tomorrow." "What do you want?" Chiang Mai hurriedly asked. Ningxi said slowly, "It's going to be autumn tomorrow. The weather's great and just nice, I don't need to shoot scenes. Want to go out and have fun for a bit?" "What?" Chiang Mai's first thought was that he had heard wrong. After all, she had seen him as a bringer of misfortune since his return from abroad, and had been avoiding him. What are you plotting? Why do you have so many questions? If you're not going, let's forget it." "Going!" Late at night. After the girl's breathing had evened out, the man finally opened eyes clear and cold as a deep pool. Under the moonlight, he quietly watched the sleeping girl's peaceful face, and gently kissed her lips. From the first moment he had seen her, he had wanted to lock her up at home and confine her to the bed, so that she couldn't go anywhere and no one would look at her, only he could look at her, and she would look at only him. Even he himself was astonished at how he had managed to endure it until now. After a light kiss, the man pried open the girl's lips and forcefully entwined his tongue with hers, until the girl frowned and almost woke up from the lack of air. After a long time, he finally drew away. He touched the girl's cheek, and sighed imperceptibly. Ningxi, don't test my endurance. I can't promise that I'll be able to endure for much longer. I also can't guarantee what I will do. The next morning, Ningxi didn't know exactly when she had fallen asleep. Anyway, when she woke up, Lu Tingxiao was predictably no longer in bed. It was almost 9 o'clock when she got up after having slept too late. There were a bunch of missed calls on her phone from Jiang Mai, who sent WeChat messages scolding her, wondering if she had stood him up again. Ningxi scratched her head and sent him a message telling him to come over. She went to wash up, then went downstairs. Lu Tingxiao had gone to work, and Little Treasure, who hadn't disturbed her while she was sleeping, was sitting quietly on the sofa reading a book. Darling, come here. Ningxi waved at Little Treasure. Little Treasure immediately put down the book, and Dang Dang ran over to her. Ningxi picked the little guy up and said, "Auntie will take you out to play today, all right?" Hearing this, Little Treasure's face was full of surprise, and he nodded furiously. At this moment, a honk sounded at the gate. Ningxi held Little Treasure's hand as they went outside. When Jiang Mai saw Ningxi, he was stunned. Today, she had her hair up in a ponytail and was wearing a pair of overalls and a floral white t-shirt with a cartoon figure on it. With a shoulder bag slung across her body, she looked like a student. "Let's go!" Ningxi took Little Treasure to the car. Jiang Mai looked wide-eyed at Little Treasure next to her. "Don't tell me, you want to take this little kid with us on our date?" Ningxi looked askance at him. "Who's going on a date with you?" "I taking Little Treasure on an autumn outing and a picnic, okay?" Jiang Mai goggled. "Then why did you ask me to come?" "To drive the car, of course. I thought about it for a bit, but you are the only person who was free today." Lu Corporation was in talks for yet another huge venture, so both Lu Tingxiao and Lu Jingli were busy during this period. Jiang Mai choked, dumbfounded. "Are you going or not? If we don't go now, the sun will go down soon." Ningxi urged him. Following orders, Jiang Mai got into the car. "Aren't you afraid that someone will recognize us?" The source of this content n/o/v/l by n. It'll be fine with a little disguise. Jiang Mai was startled a bit and said uneasily, "What are we disguising as? A family of 3? You wish. I'm the sister, Little Treasure is the little brother, and as for you." "Who am I?" "The dad?" "Bah. You're the driver." Jiang Mai. "Remember to go to the supermarket first. We have to buy a grill, plus meat and drinks." "Got it." A black cloud hung over Jiang Mai. This asshole really knew how to trap him. After shopping at the supermarket, Ningxi found a spot by a small river with good scenery and no one around. Humming a song happily, she taught Little Treasure how to skewer meat. Jiang Mai was singing as he put together a fishing rod. "It's sunny today, but you showed up with your little brother." Seeing his face, my mood became cloudy, like salt on my wound. Ningxi stood up with her hands on her hips. "Enough. Sing a merry song for master. It's fine weather today, the scenery is good, it's good." Jiang Mai was listless, but once he started eating, he regained his energy. At least Ningxi, this person was really good at cooking. It was just a regular barbecue, but she made it taste so good. Guessing that it had been hard on him, Little Treasure, who didn't care about anyone else apart from Ningxi, actually personally passed him a lamb skewer. Jiang Mai was overwhelmed with gratitude. Also, he realized that Ningxi hadn't been exaggerating before. The little kid was really too lovable when he was being good. No wonder Ningxi was so good to him. Damn it, it was so unfair. How did someone like Lu Tingxiao produce such a cute son? Genetic mutation? Jiang Mai chewed his meat as he played around with a small idea. Even though he had come along as labor, who would know? He kept seeing Lu Tingxiao's daily posts in WeChat moments showing off their PDA. Now it was his turn. Jiang Mai secretly laughed a few times and took a sneaky photo of Ningxi's back with his phone. He posted it in his moments smugly. Aloha. Picnicking. Given Lu Tingxiao's discerning eye, he would definitely recognize the view of her back. Very quickly, his gang of rascal friends started commenting. Wow. She's a knockout. Can tell she's a beauty just from her back. Jiang Mai, you bastard, where's your loyalty to your friends? Bring the girl for us to take a look. A photo of her face, a photo of her face. Don't be stingy. Why does she look so young? Is she of age yet? Jiang Mai, are you breaking the law now? After a while, Lu Jingli commented, ouch. The barbecue meat looks so good. And chicken wing, grilled fish, you brat, you didn't call me, your uncle over for such good food. Lu Jingli's focus of attention really was different from normal people's. After a long while, the one he had really been waiting for finally made an appearance. Refreshing his feed, he saw that Lu Tingxiao had just replied. Jiang Mai hurriedly clicked on it, but after reading it, his face turned black. Lu Tingxiao's comment, don't let Little Treasure eat too much, recently he's been a little overweight. F asterisk 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 F asterisk 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 F asterisk asterisk asterisk. Little Treasure. How did Lu Tingxiao know Little Treasure was with them? Jiang Mai looked at his picture again and finally realized the problem. In the photo, Little Treasure's figure was reflected on the river's surface. F asterisk asterisk asterisk, he had too good an eye. Jiang Mai's bragging had failed. His head drooped and he retreated like a beaten roster. Then he saw Ningxi making a call on her phone. Who are you calling? Jiang Mai asked casually. Sister Gigi, Ningxi answered. After becoming more familiar with each other, Ningxi had started calling her sister Gigi instead of Sister Lin. Jiang Mai took a sip of his juice. What straight, what turn? My manager, Lin Gigi. Ji as in the mushroom Ling Ji, all right? When she said that, Jiang Mai spit out the juice he had been drinking. You said who? Lin Gigi, Ling Manyan's manager. You didn't watch the press conference that day? Why are you so slow? Ningxi gave him a belittling look. F asterisk 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 that. I knew what the result was going to be, why would I still watch it? Lin Gigi, why her? After finding out that Ningxi had joined Glory World, he had been agitated. He only had a rough idea of the situation and hadn't watched the press conference. Who knew Lu Tingxiao would drop such a big bomb on him? Ningxi was confused. Why can't it be Lin Gigi? Why are you so agitated? Don't tell me she was your ex-girlfriend? Jiang Mai. Seeing that Jiang Mai was unusually silent, Ningxi snapped her fingers. I'm such an idiot, I guessed it, didn't I? Don't talk to me. I need some peace and quiet. Jiang Mai mistakens the Ji in Lin Gigi's name for Ji, which means straight. Jiang Mai had lost this round completely. Strictly speaking, he was the one who had started the war, but he had stepped on a mine himself and couldn't take another step. The enemy was brutal. Ningxi couldn't believe it. I never expected that someone like Sister Gigi can also be blind at times. Jiang Mai glared at her. Watch your mouth. What blind? You are the blind one. You even liked trash like Su Yan. Ningxi sighed. AI, just blame it on us being young and naive, we couldn't tell the dogs from people. You. Jiang Mai was so angry that he couldn't continue, then in the end exploded. Now do you know how evil and scheming Lu Tingxiao is? He used such a shameless trick to stop me. Upto.dfrm no/v/e/lb/i n.co/m. After saying that, he thought he would see regret on Ningxi's face, but instead, he saw her act all silly and infatuated. Lord Boss really is so wise and such a strategist, always prepared and able to plan victories from 1,000 miles away. Jiang Mai's face was as black as the bottom of a pan. Ningxi, there is no hope for you anymore. Ningxi suddenly moved closer, a cheeky expression on her face. Hey, what happened between you and Sister Gigi? Looking at your face, it doesn't seem something as simple as an ex-girlfriend. Jiang Mai, this guy wouldn't be this apprehensive over something as trifling as an ex-girlfriend. Mind your own business first. Jiang Mai wasn't in a good mood, and asked hesitantly, what did you guys talk about just now? Ningxi shrugged. Not much, she let me know the writer is revising the script, and filming will resume in half a month. Brother Ming told me the same, there'll be more emphasis on Meng Chang'e and Sun Huanqing's story after the rewrite. As for Ning Xuelua and Zhao Xizhou, it's not clear yet whether they will be replaced, but since Lu Tingxiao cares about you so much, I bet he'll definitely get rid of them. Jiang Mai analyzed the situation. Ningxi shook her head. Wrong, if Lu Tingxiao really knows the way I think, he definitely won't have anyone replaced. Because, using my strength to thoroughly defeat Ning Xuelua in the movie, and reducing her to nothing more than a foil for my role, for me, is the best way to get revenge. After saying this, Ningxi's phone beeped with a notification for the latest entertainment news. She subscribed to some important entertainment news sites, and each time, the latest news would pop up themselves. The corners of Ningxi's mouth couldn't help turning up after she read it. She looked simply like a silly girl in love. Terrified by the expression on her face, Jiang Mai drew closer warily to take a look. It was Glory World's latest announcement. Lu Corporation had stepped in to replace the investments withdrawn by Ning International and Starlight Entertainment. The World project now belonged to Glory World completely. Out of consideration for the shooting schedule, none of the cast would be replaced. Jiang Mai felt suffocated by the tacit understanding which Lu Tingxiao and Ningxi shared. It looks like you've been completely ensnared, and you don't even know it. You like Lu Tingxiao this much, can you really endure not being with him? Ningxi laid down on the grass and plucked a piece of bristlegrass and NBSP, and stuck it between her lips. Who said that if you like someone you need to be with that person? Is it any less than the people who get together because they like each other? How many of them really last? This is already good enough. The best case scenario was them becoming good friends and confidants. But even if the worst case scenario came to pass, forgetting with the flow of time wasn't a bad thing, and NBSP, the memories would then remain forever in a time when they were the most beautiful. There was no way she could waste a half-month break. The next day, Ningxi also took Little Treasure out to have fun. Miss Xiaoxi, do you want to wait for eldest young master to come back from work first before going out together? The old butler couldn't just watch anymore, and started to prompt her like a matchmaker. Ningxi scratched her head. Better not, he's so busy. We can go by ourselves. She had deliberately chosen a time when Lu Tingxiao wasn't around. There was no way she would wait for him to come back from work first. Then, please let them follow you. This is eldest young master's instruction, we can't take little young master's safety lightly. The old butler gestured at 3 bodyguards wearing black clothes and sunglasses nearby. It was a reasonable request. Of course Ningxi could only agree. This way, she didn't need to look for Jiang Mai to do the work. Why did she have a feeling that Lu Tingxiao had arranged it like that on purpose? Ningxi's plan for today was to buy little treasure some toys and clothes. Of course, since she hadn't received her pay yet, she still had to use Lu Tingxiao's credit card. While they were shopping, she found a newly opened kids' clothing store which sold very trendy and cute clothes, and she switched completely into buy mode. Darling, this one is good too, go and try it on. Little Treasure nodded and obediently went to the fitting room. While Ningxi was waiting for Little Bun to try on the clothes, she saw 2 familiar figures passing by outside the store. Ning Xuelua held onto Su Yan's arm intimately as they walked and chatted together. Get your Avrite ovals at no/v/e/lbn.com. Wow, this kid's clothing store is so cute. Brother Yan, let's go inside and take a look. Fanglin's son's birthday is next month, shall we get him some clothes as a birthday gift? Su Yan answered passively. Have you seen Fanglin's son? He's so fair-skinned and chubby, so cute. Brother Yan, if we have a son in the future, do you think he will be as cute? Ning Xuelua asked shyly. Probably. It was obvious that Su Yan's mood was low as he gave a perfunctory answer. Ning Xuelua looked like she was at a loss. Brother Yan, are you still angry with me? I already publicly apologized on Weibo, and you heard Kaijing's explanation for yourself. As for that phone call, it was because you suddenly wouldn't talk to me, so I had a little too much to drink. I was so desperate and anxious, and I didn't know what I was saying. I really regret it. Xiao Shi. As Ning Xuelua was explaining, Su Yan suddenly said Ningxi's name. She followed his gaze, and unexpectedly saw Ningxi standing next to a clothes rack opposite them. Sister. Ning Xuelua's tears welled up, and she immediately ran over to hold her hand. Sister, finally. I wanted to apologize in person so badly, but you didn't pick up my phone calls these past few days, and I don't know where you're staying. When everyone was asking me about this before, I did say that I didn't believe that you did all that, and then it turned out to be a misunderstanding. I knew you wouldn't do anything like that. Now the truth has come out, but you were still hurt by it. I was a victim too, but no matter what, this incident happened because of me, and I pulled you into it. So I'm sorry, I'm really sorry. You can hit me, scold me, do whatever you want, as long as you stop being angry with me. Ning Xuelua's speech gave the impression of sincere feeling, and sounded natural and unforced, even making it sound like Ningxi was still bullying her without reason. Ningxi didn't say anything sharp to her like she did before, and only threw a resigned and tired look in Su Yan's direction. Her eyes made Su Yan's heart feel as if it was being nibbled on by lice, and he hurriedly drew Ning Xuelua away from Ningxi. Xuelua, calm down a little. Ning Xuelua did not notice Ningxi's little action, her tears falling down. Brother Yan, help me talk to sister. You know best how much I've hurt and blamed myself these last few days. I really hope she can forgive me. Otherwise I really... Looking at the woman crying broken-heartedly in his arms, Su Yan finally relented. Xiao Shi, I'm sorry, Xuelua blames herself very much for this. When Ning Xuelua heard this, her mouth twitched with the hint of a smug smile. While she wept sadly on the outside, inside she was secretly expecting Ningxi to explode. Every time she had asked for forgiveness before, Ningxi would definitely become very agitated, and she would say every nasty thing possible, which made Su Yan dislike her even more. It would definitely be the same this time. Ningxi tiredly pinched the skin between her eyebrows, and then sighed. Forget it, Ningxuelua, I saw your apology and I also received it. Since it was a misunderstanding, then forget it. I forgive you. What did you say? Ningxuelua's face changed instantly, full of disbelief. On the other hand, Su Yan was very delighted. Xuelua, are you relieved now? Ningxuelua couldn't say a single word, her face turning the color of liver. On the other side, the door of the dressing room opened, and Little Treasure stepped out in the clothes he had tried on. A hint of warmth instantly flickered over Ningxi's fake mask. She walked over to pick Little Treasure up with a smile, and then said to the salesgirl, I want all the clothes that he just tried on, and he'll directly wear this one out. Understood, I'll ring them up for you right away, the salesgirl answered with a dimpled smile. Ningxi nodded to Su Yan to indicate she was leaving, then with Little Treasure in her arms, walked directly out of the store. Behind them, a bodyguard in black settled the bill, picked up all the shopping bags, and followed after them. Ningxuelua was struck dumb at this scene. Then an extremely excited expression appeared on her face. Is what Fang Lin and Xian said true? Last time they told me they saw Ningxi buying children's clothes at the mall, but I didn't believe it. Sister Shi, don't tell me she really has become the mistress of an old rich man, and even gave him a son. It was a pity that Ningxi had left so quickly, she hadn't been able to see the child's face clearly, and also wasn't in time to secretly take photos as evidence. Xuelua! Stop talking nonsense. When Su Yan heard this, he immediately interrupted her with a solemn face, looking in the direction of Ningxi's departure. I saw this child once. Xiaoxi already said, he's just the son of a friend. Ningxuelua said hurriedly, Brother Yan, you are too naive. Can she be so good to him if he is just the son of a friend? Look, she has a bodyguard following her, and she paid with a black card. This sort of family would have plenty of nannies and bodyguards, why would she need to help take care of the kid? A hint of struggle and hesitation appeared on Su Yan's face. But then he seemed to think of something, and in the end he still said in a determined voice, Xuelua, in my heart, Ningxi is my little sister. If you insult her, you insult me. Don't let me hear such words again. Other people can doubt her, but we can't, understand? Ningxuelua had completely not expected Su Yan's attitude towards Ningxi to change so drastically after what happened this time. Damn it! What kind of spell had Ningxi cast on him in the hospital that day? Su Yan suddenly had so much faith in her, even turning a deaf ear to Ningxuelua's words. I'm sorry, Brother Yan, I know I'm wrong, I won't do it again. Ningxuelua gritted her teeth as she said the words. It seemed like the incident this time had aroused the guilt inside Su Yan, and he wouldn't doubt Ningxi so easily anymore. But so what, even if he wouldn't believe what people said, she would find an opportunity to make him see it with his own eyes. Then they'd see whether or not he still wouldn't believe it. It would be too easy to find Ningxi's weak point. Her relationship with Jiang Mai had always been unclear, and now there was a kid in the mix. Things were getting more and more interesting. But she would have to temporarily endure it during this period, and wait for Su Yan's guilt to decrease before she could do anything else. On the ground floor of the mall, Ningxi was ready to take Little Treasure home, when she suddenly discovered that the car which had been waiting for them at the entrance was gone. Huh, where's our car? Ningxi was confused. It couldn't have been stolen, right? But that wasn't possible, since the driver had still been in the car. Behind her, the bodyguard replied, Miss, our car has already left because the boss called just now to say that he would come get us after work. Ah. Ningxi said stupidly when she heard this, then hurriedly continued, then we should go by ourselves. What if he has to work overtime or is delayed by something? Before she finished speaking, a black Maybach pulled up smoothly. The window of the back seat rolled down slowly, and an expressionless face appeared. Finished shopping? Ningxi's expression was stiff as she nodded her head. She had been getting up late and sleeping early the last 2 days to avoid running into him, so even though they lived under one roof, she hadn't seen him for 2 whole days. Going home? Yes, yes. Ningxi opened the car door and helped Little Treasure into the car. Then she opened the door of the front passenger seat, prepared to sit in the front. However, one of the bodyguards came up to her in anxious worry. "Miss, the front passenger seat isn't safe, so let me sit here. It's better for you to sit at the back, it's very roomy." Oh. Ningxi opened the back car door again, and got in. After getting in, even though Little Bun was between them, Ningxi tried her best to stay on her side of the car. Lu Tingxiao's attitude was the same as usual. With a laptop on his knees, he was busy tapping away rapidly on his keyboard. Seeing this, Ningxi breathed a little sigh of relief. However, 10 minutes later, Lu Tingxiao seemed to have finished his work. He put the computer down, settled a drowsy Little Treasure onto his lap, placed the computer on his other side, and then naturally turned in Ningxi's direction. The familiar cold aura suddenly intruded onto the safe distance, making the hair on Ningxi's whole body immediately stand on end. She subconsciously pressed her body against the door again, her face almost glued to the window. "Ningxi." Lu Tingxiao's voice sounded in her ears. "Ah. What is it?" Ningxi turned her head to him. Lu Tingxiao looked at her, and spoke unhurriedly. "Are you hiding from me?" "Ha! How? How is that possible? Why would I need to hide from you? It's just that the red clouds at sunset outside the window are very pretty. I'm looking at the view, just the view." Saying that, Ningxi turned back around with a whoosh. But at that moment, she didn't know what the driver was doing, but he suddenly made a sharp turn, causing Ningxi's body to fall towards Lu Tingxiao. Lu Tingxiao frowned, and stretched out one arm to protect her shoulder. After that, he didn't take his arm back. "I'm sorry, boss, a car suddenly swerved into the lane just now," reported Assistant Ching Feng, who was driving the car. Find the new ST ovals on n//velben.com. Lu Tingxiao, drive a little slower. Ching Feng was getting a pay rise when they got back. Ching Feng, understood. Ningxi. Was it her imagination, or was everyone, from the butler to the bodyguard to the assistant, helping Lu Tingxiao out? After returning home, Ningxi continued using dieting as an excuse for missing dinner, and the first chance she got, went up to her room. She was really thankful for hers and Little Bun's skyrocketing weight these last few days. It gave her such a good excuse. After a while, there was a knock on the door. Luckily, from the sound of the footsteps, it wasn't Lu Tingxiao. Ningxi had just showered, and she was drying her hair as she went over to open the door. Wan Wan was standing at the door, holding a tray of food in her hands. Seeing how breathtaking Ningxi looked after a shower, she was clearly stunned. The girl in front of her was just too beautiful. Right after a shower, her white skin had a red flush to it that made her even more alluring, so much so that even she as a woman was captivated. No wonder eldest young master. Wan Wan quickly shook her head and came to her senses, as she said, "Miss Xiaoxi, eldest young master had me bring you something to eat. Even though it's important to watch your weight, you shouldn't starve yourself. All these are low in calories and fat, eating them will be fine." "Okay, thank you, Wan Wan." Looking at the cute servant, Ningxi's nervous mood eased a lot. "Wan Wan, you changed your hairstyle. It's cute, it suits you very well." "Thank you, Miss Xiaoxi." Wan Wan happily touched her hair, and then said hesitantly, "Miss Xiaoxi, you are a very good person. In fact, I think you and eldest young master are especially compatible. It would be wonderful if you could become our eldest young mistress. Otherwise, if some other scheming woman joined the family, we would definitely be very miserable. Ningxi, why was even the maid starting to help him? Please cut me some slack. Later, Wanwan knocked on her door again, and gave her a glass of milk. When there was a knock at the door for the third time, Ningxi was leaning against the balcony railing as she blew dry her hair. Thinking it was Wanwan again, she directly said to come in. It was only when the footsteps got closer that she felt something wasn't right. She turned around, and as expected, she saw Lu Tingxiao's face within reach. Lu Tingxiao. Ningxi subconsciously tightened her grip on the railing. Did you need something? Your favorite ovals at n/vl/bin.com. Lu Tingxiao did not speak, just stood there looking at her silently. The girl in front of him was wearing a long royal-looking nightgown which reached her ankles. What should be covered was covered completely. After a blow-dry, her hair was still a little damp, drifting softly in the night wind. Her cheeks were still flushed from the steam of her shower, and her alert eyes flashed with a hint of startlement and vigilance. When Ningxi's scalp almost tingled from being stared at, Lu Tingxiao finally spoke. Ningxi. Ningxi, huh? Lu Tingxiao, I miss you very much. Ningxi instantly goggled, and almost thought that she had heard wrong. Cough, cough, wah, what? Lu Tingxiao reached out to gently pick up a strand of hair by her ear, and said in a dreamy tone, like the chill rising from a pool of cold ice, it feels like I haven't seen you for a very long time. It was just 2 days, okay? Arg, this wasn't the main point. The point was that Lu Tingxiao had just said that he missed her? He directly said that he missed her? This wasn't how things were supposed to turn out. She was definitely hallucinating, right? She had to be. But as Ningxi kept thinking of a proper reason for Lu Tingxiao's actions, Lu Tingxiao took one step forward, put a hand around her waist, drew her gently to him, and then embraced her. At the same time, his other hand came up around her, and in an extremely exhausted and yearning gesture, he leaned down to softly bury his head in the crook of her neck. Ningxi! Ah! OMG! What was this situation? Discover new stories at nv/lbin.c/o. It was as if Ningxi's brain had been invaded by a virus, throwing the coding into wild disarray. When she finally came back to her senses, her first reaction was to push him away quickly. But Lu Tingxiao tightened his arms, and the voice in her ear sounded a little pitiful. Don't move, all right? Let me hold you for a little while. Ningxi. How was she supposed to respond to this request? Damn it! What the hell was Lu Tingxiao playing at? She had been avoiding him these 2 days, and had been very careful not to stir him up. Why was he suddenly? 10 seconds passed. 30 seconds passed. 1 minute passed. 3 minutes passed. It was supposed to be a little while only. Too untrustworthy. The moment Ningxi couldn't bear it anymore, Lu Tingxiao released her. Sorry. I forgot myself. Ningxi swallowed. It's fine, it's fine. It. He almost scared her into a heart attack, and he thought he could make it all right with just a forgot myself? What made her even more miserable was that she couldn't say no. Seeing the sullen look on the girl's face, there was an imperceptible flash of amusement in his eyes. Go to bed a little earlier. Good night. Good night, good night, good night to you too. Good night her, but she didn't need to sleep tonight. The next morning, Ningxi, who as expected had tossed and turned in bed the whole night, didn't dare to get up. Finally, she covertly gave Wan Wan a phone call. Wan Wan, has your eldest young master gone to work yet? No. But I think eldest young master is very busy. His phone hasn't stopped ringing since he got up and came downstairs. Assistant Ching also came over in a hurry, and it seems he asked eldest young master when would they be heading out. And then? Then eldest young master hasn't left. He's been downstairs all this time. I don't know what he's waiting for. Ning Shi. It looked like she couldn't avoid him. Ning Shi took several deep breaths, adjusted her mindset, put on an impenetrable mask, and went downstairs with a calm, natural expression. She saw Lu Tingxiao sitting leisurely on the sofa. Nearby, Assistant Ching was holding a stack of documents in his hands, looking very anxious but not daring to urge him to hurry. Ning Shi stretched as she came down the stairs. When she saw Lu Tingxiao, she deliberately showed an astonished expression. Eh? Lu Tingxiao, it's already this time, why haven't you gone to work yet? Lu Tingxiao heard the girl's voice, and raised his eyes to look at her with a soft expression. His eyes were like yarn, warmly and gently twining around her. I was waiting for you, Lu Tingxiao said. Ning Shi was lifeless. Why was she suddenly unable to speak properly with him? While Ning Shi had a foolish look on her face, Lu Tingxiao had already stood up and walked towards her. Ning Shi's instinctive reflex was to retreat, but as if they had some intangible power, the man's eyes held her in place, and she couldn't move. Within a moment, Lu Tingxiao was already in front of her. He rubbed her head with his large palm. If I don't wait for you now, then I'll be unable to see you for the whole day again. Ning Shi was still lifeless. I'm going to work. Saying that, Lu Tingxiao leaned forward to kiss her forehead. Ning Shi. She was now totally dead. Behind them, Ching Feng startled as if he had been blinded, then looked away with a flushed face, as if he had seen something inappropriate. This was too inhumane. He had not only almost gone crazy with anxiety so early in the morning, he was also being oppressed as a single man. Long after Lu Tingxiao had left, Ning Shi still remained rooted to the same spot, her fingers unconsciously touching her forehead where he had kissed her. It was still burning with sensation. Although it was just a kiss on her forehead, although she had already secretly kissed him before, it was still the first kiss that had happened when they were both sober. At this moment, Ning Shi understood at last. Lu Tingxiao had definitely known about her strategy early on, so he had switched tactics. If he had continued pretending like before, that would have been fine. But if he simply didn't conceal it anymore, changing dark to light, what could she do? F*******. It was over. She really couldn't win against him. If she was pushed to the point where she had to lay all her cards on the table, then there could only be one outcome, and they might part on bad terms, or worse. As Ning Shi was panicking, she suddenly felt her pants leg being yanked. Looking down, she saw Little Treasure, who was tilting his little head up to look at her. Little Treasure. Ning Shi saw Little Treasure holding a watercolor painting in his hands, and said in surprise, "Did you finish drawing already?" Little Treasure nodded shyly, then stared expectantly at her. Ning Shi's plans for the near future was all about accompanying Little Treasure. She had already arranged the itinerary yesterday. She would take Little Treasure to fly a kite, and furthermore, they would make it by hand themselves. After clearly seeing what Little Treasure had painted, Ning Shi was a little amazed. "This, you painted?" Apart from her and himself, Little Treasure seldom painted portraits, and people never appeared in the scenery that he painted, but this time, Ning Shi realized that there were 3 people in his painting. White clouds floated in a vast boundless sky, and there were 3 people sitting on the clouds, a man, a woman, and a little boy between them. Little Treasure had still used an abstract painting style, but from their characteristics, Ning Shi could still recognize the people in the painting at a glance. They were her and Lu Tingxiao, and Little Treasure. Little Treasure had always never been fond of Lu Tingxiao, and when he drew, it was only ever her or the both of them together. He had never drawn Lu Tingxiao. This was the first time that Little Treasure had also painted Lu Tingxiao. Ningxi was a little startled, but she quickly recovered. She took Little Bun's hand. "Let's go. Let's use it to make a kite." Grandpa Butler should have already helped us prepare the bamboo canes for the frame. Find new chapters on nv/lbi.com. Little Bun nodded, but he seemed a little disappointed. Ningxi flew a kite with Little Treasure the whole day, and personally cooked that night. She had taken Little Treasure out to eat the last 2 days, then had come back very late at night, and had hidden in her room as soon as she returned. Now that it was obvious that this ploy had failed, she didn't need to continue with it. Just as she finished cooking, Lu Jingli, that guy, eagerly came running over after following the scent like a dog, wagging his tail. "Wow, oh, these are all my favorites, sister-in-law, ba, cough, 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 xiao shi shi, I've been waiting for you to cook again." Speechless, Ningxi looked askance at Lu Jingli. This guy, did he slip just now and call her sister-in-law? "Go and tell your brother that dinner's ready." Oh, okay." Lu Jingli ran off in a hurry, but at the same time, his heart was full of suspicion. He had accidentally blabbed it just now, which had made him break out in a cold sweat. But unexpectedly Ningxi didn't react. Did she not hear him clearly? At the table, the more Lu Jingli, who had an keen instinct, looked at the two people, the more he felt that there was something off about them. Something is wrong, something is wrong. Lu Jingli gnawed on his chopsticks, and drew closer to his brother's ear to whisper, "Brother, did you do something to Xiao Shi Shi? Why does she look so scared of you? She doesn't even dare look at you." "I didn't do anything," Lu Tingxiao answered. There wasn't the slightest hint of anything unusual in his emotionless expression. "Is there something wrong with my sixth sense then?" "Not possible." Baffled, Lu Jingli scratched his head. At last, the meal ended like that. Ningxi felt that eating this meal was more tiring than fighting a war. She had to be on her guard every second. After the meal, Ningxi immediately stood up and started clearing the table. "I'll wash the dishes." Lu Jingli finished the last sweet and sour rib and spoke with his mouth full. "Let me do it." It's fine, I'll do it." Ningxi scrambled to do it. If she didn't find something to do, she would go crazy. Lu Jingli looked apprehensively at Lu Tingxiao next to him and said hurriedly, "How can we let you wash the dishes after you worked hard to make them? I ate the most, of course I should be the one to wash the dishes." Saying that, Lu Jingli looked at his brother, like he was waiting for a reward. However, Lu Tingxiao looked at him indifferently and said, "Let Ningxi do it." Lu Jingli was utterly stunned. Did the sun rise in the west today? This wife-protecting maniac was letting Ningxi wash the dishes? This wasn't logical. No matter how hard he thought, Lu Jingli was still confused. Lu Tingxiao looked at him and said slowly, "You are the guest, after all." Stupefied, Lu Jingli pointed at himself with his finger. "What? I'm the guest?" In other words, it was Ningxi and him that were family? Since when had he become the guest here? On the side, Ningxi blushed. She put her hand to her forehead, with the expression of someone ready to die, then quickly ran upstairs. Little Treasure watched Auntie Xiao Shi suddenly run away with a lost expression on his face. He didn't know what was wrong with Auntie Xiao Shi, but he could tell it was his papa who had done something to her, so he gave Lu Tingxiao an unhappy stare, then followed behind her on his short legs. Lu Jingli was caught off guard by the way Lu Tingxiao had brutally thrown dog food right in his face. Looking dumbly at Ningxi's fleeing back, he said helplessly, "Brother, this is what you call nothing?" Your teasing sent even a tough girl like Ningxi running away, alright? I knew there was nothing wrong with my sixth sense. What on earth are you trying to stir up? I act so carefully every day to not sell you out, but in the end, you've suddenly become so unrestrained in your approach. Whatever the case is, at least tell me about it, so then I'll know how to coordinate with you. Lu Jingli nagged for a long while, and Lu Tingxiao responded with 3 words, go wash dishes. Then he turned to walk upstairs with cool aplomb. Lu Jingli. He had been tortured to the point he lost all his skin and almost vomited blood, and in the end he still needed to wash the dishes? He had only been used for his brother to show off their affection? Where was the humanity? Where was the reason? And where was the brotherhood? The night was quiet and peaceful, and Ningxi was lying in bed with her eyes wide open. It had already been a few hours, but her heart was still beating unusually fast. What the hell? She had already experienced and seen so much of the world, yet with one sentence from a man, she was panicking this much. Her heart was racing, just like a naive teenage girl who was completely inexperienced in love. She almost already didn't dare imagine what the future would be like. F0 low new hapters at nov/el/bin/.com. No, she couldn't continue like this, just waiting to be killed. At this time, the clock struck midnight with a dong. Ningxi rolled out of bed and started searching everywhere for something. A single person can be colloquially referred to as a dog, so couples who flaunt their PDA are pretty much throwing dog food in single people's faces. After searching for a while, Ningxi changed into a silver, sequined camisole, black tights, and high heels 12 centimeters tall. She then put on smoky makeup even her own mother wouldn't recognize her in. Cinderella changed into a beautiful gown at midnight and went to the palace in a pumpkin carriage to meet her Prince Charming. She had turned into a hussy at midnight and was going to hit up a nightclub to provoke the big demon king's disgust. Sigh. These 2 days, Lu Tingxiao had been very busy. He should still be awake at this time, right? Ningxi ran out to the balcony and looked in the direction of the study. As expected, the lights in Lu Tingxiao's study were still on. So she ran over and knocked on the door decisively. She needed to do her best to blind him. Dong dong dong, after she knocked 3 times, there came the sound of steady footsteps, and then the door opened. After clearly seeing who it was outside the door, Lu Tingxiao stared blankly. You. I'm going out drinking with some friends, I just came to let you know. Saying this, Ningxi waited expectantly for Lu Tingxiao's reaction. Lu Tingxiao's surprise was for just a moment, and after that he nodded in understanding, as if he didn't see how exaggeratedly dressed she was. All right, have fun. Saying this, he still even asked, do you need the driver to send you? Ningxi was disappointed. Cough, no need, I'll take my motorbike. She took a deep breath to pull herself together, and just as she was about to leave, Lu Tingxiao suddenly approached her. What did he want now? Ningxi took an instinctive step back, but still couldn't avoid Lu Tingxiao's hand reaching out to her. His finger touched her earlobe and squeezed it a little. All the hair on Ningxi's body stood up, and she immediately covered her ear, looking at Lu Tingxiao as if she was looking at a perverted old man. The corners of Lu Tingxiao's mouth twitched, and he pointed to where he had touched her. You have a mole here. Find you chapters on nv/lbi.com. So? Why bring up her mole so randomly? Ningxi's mind was already a mess, and at the moment, she could understand his logic even less. People might not recognize you in this outfit and makeup, but this mole is very distinctive and exposed, it's best that you cover it, Lu Tingxiao said. Ningxi stood 2 steps away from him. It's just a mole, surely no one will notice it? No harm in being cautious. Okay, what you say is reasonable, later I'll put on some big earrings to cover it. After that short encounter, Ningxi finally left the gate on her motorbike. Why was it even though this round had just started, she felt like she was going to lose it miserably? No, 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 stay clear-headed, you have to break this obsession with the big demon king. In the bar. Enjoying a rare moment to herself, Ningxi ordered a bottle of wine at the bar counter and sat down to pour herself a cup. The dance floor was crowded with people dancing madly, but she wasn't the slightest bit interested as she stared absent-mindedly into her glass. She had had enough of the bar scene when she had lived overseas. No matter how wild or exciting it was, to her it was no different than a ridiculous pantomime. After she had one bottle, Ningxi ordered another one. Alcohol didn't relax her, on the contrary, it made her anxious. At this time, a man walked over with a glass of wine in his hand. "Miss, are you alone?" The man looked 30-something in age. He was immaculately dressed, like some elite, and had an egoistic appearance. Many guys in the bar had noticed her while she was polishing off her first bottle of wine, but in this getup, Ningxi looked like an old hand at the scene, and the average person didn't dare make a move. Out of the corner of her eye, Ningxi looked at the man's ring finger on his left hand. Even though he wasn't wearing a wedding ring, the skin color around that area was obviously lighter. Obviously he took it off when he was picking up girls. "I am," Ningxi answered lazily, one hand supporting her head. The man's face lit up. "May I join you?" "Sure." Ningxi smiled lightly, an obvious suggestion lurking in her eyes. That man was almost unable to conceal his pleased look, and he opened with an outdated pickup line, "Bad mood?" Ningxi sighed, "Yup, bad breakup." "Who would break up with a beauty like you? Which kind of man doesn't know how to cherish what he has?" The elite had an astonished expression on his face. "I dumped him." Cough cough, then he must have pissed you off. "That's right. I just came to pick up guys to fool around with now and then, and when he found out, he made such a big deal out of it, isn't that so ridiculous?" The elite finally couldn't say a word. Why did he find these lines so familiar? It was like how he had been complaining to his comrades just now about how his wife nagged him the whole day. But he was so taken by this woman's every gesture, as if he had been bewitched, that he completely didn't realize that he was being played with. After a few drinks, the two of them walked out of the bar together. Where to? Royal Riviera or Pearl? The elite couldn't wait any longer. What hotels? Here's good. Ningxi dragged the man into a small side alley. Find you chapters on nv/lbi.com. The elite panted with excitement and pressed her into the wall. You're right, here's more exciting. While the two of them were talking, they didn't notice at all that 5 steps away from them, a black car without car plates was parked there like a ghost. In the car, no matter how calm a person Lu Tingxiao was, this time his entire being was already covered in a thick layer of frost. In the front passenger seat, Lu Jingli was regretting his decision so much that his intestines had turned green with repentance. He had had a strong feeling that something big was going to happen tonight, so he hadn't gone to bed at all. In the end, he happened to see out his window Ningxi and his brother leaving the house at different times, so he had shamelessly followed them. But he had never expected in a million years something this big would happen. He couldn't stand his brother's horrifying face anymore, so horrifying that it could stop an infant from crying at night. In the alley, that man's hand was already on Ningxi's waist. Even if Lu Tingxiao was a god that had descended to their level, his endurance should be breaking by now. Lu Jingli could tell that Lu Tingxiao's patience was hanging by a single strand of hair. "Brother, what are you still waiting for?" Lu Tingxiao said in a voice cold as iron, "Wait a little longer." Lu Jingli was panicking. It's already at this point. What are you waiting for? You'll turn green if you don't do anything. Xiao Shishu restrained herself these last 2 years, but she has a history of being wild. Learning to be good is not easy, but it's too easy to become bad again. Lu Tingxiao, shut up. Just as Lu Jingli closed his eyes and didn't dare to watch, suddenly there was a terrible scream opposite them. Huh? That sounds not right. Lu Jingli opened his eyes immediately and saw that man covering his manhood as he screamed like a pig being slaughtered. Ningxi immediately gave him another harsh kick, and the man fell to the ground. Just as he got up, Ningxi stepped on his back, and his jaw hit the ground hard, blood flowing out of his mouth. Lu Jingli felt pain just looking at the scene, and he covered his eyes when he couldn't bear to watch it anymore. Sister-in-law is too brutal, ow ow ow. To turn green is to make yourself sick. Out of the corner of her eye, Ningxi looked at the man's ring finger on his left hand. Even though he wasn't wearing a wedding ring, the skin color around that area was obviously lighter. Obviously he took it off when he was picking up girls. I am. Ningxi answered lazily, one hand supporting her head. The man's face lit up. May I join you? Sure. Ningxi smiled lightly, an obvious suggestion lurking in her eyes. That man was almost unable to conceal his pleased look, and he opened with an outdated pickup line, bad mood? Ningxi sighed. Yup, bad breakup. Who would break up with a beauty like you? Which kind of man doesn't know how to cherish what he has? The elite had an astonished expression on his face. I dumped him. Cough cough, then he must have pissed you off. That's right. I just came to pick up guys to fool around with now and then, and when he found out, he made such a big deal out of it. Isn't that so ridiculous? The elite finally couldn't say a word. Why did he find these lines so familiar? It was like how he had been complaining to his comrades just now about how his wife nagged him the whole day. But he was so taken by this woman's every gesture, as if he had been bewitched, that he completely didn't realize that he was being played with. After a few drinks, the two of them walked out of the bar together. Where to? Royal Riveria or Pearl? The elite couldn't wait any longer. What hotels? Here's good. Ningxi dragged the man into a small side alley. Find you chapters on nv/lbi.com. The elite panted with excitement and pressed her into the wall. You're right, here's more exciting. While the two of them were talking, they didn't notice at all that 5 steps away from them, a black car without car plates was parked there like a ghost. In the car, no matter how calm a person Lu Tingxiao was, this time his entire being was already covered in a thick layer of frost. In the front passenger seat, Lu Jingli was regretting his decision so much that his intestines had turned green with repentance. He had had a strong feeling that something big was going to happen tonight, so he hadn't gone to bed at all. In the end, he happened to see out his window Ningxi and his brother leaving the house at different times, so he had shamelessly followed them. But he had never expected in a million years something this big would happen. He couldn't stand his brother's horrifying face anymore, so horrifying that it could stop an infant from crying at night. In the alley, that man's hand was already on Ningxi's waist. Even if Lu Tingxiao was a god that had descended to their level, his endurance should be breaking by now. Lu Jingli could tell that Lu Tingxiao's patience was hanging by a single strand of hair. Brother, what are you still waiting for? Lu Tingxiao said in a voice cold as iron, wait a little longer. Lu Jingli was panicking. It's already at this point. What are you waiting for? You'll turn green if you don't do anything. Xiao Shishu restrained herself these last 2 years, but she has a history of being wild. Learning to be good is not easy, but it's too easy to become bad again. Lu Tingxiao, shut up. Just as Lu Jingli closed his eyes and didn't dare to watch, suddenly there was a terrible scream opposite them. Huh? That sounds not right. Lu Jingli opened his eyes immediately and saw that man covering his manhood as he screamed like a pig being slaughtered. Ningxi immediately gave him another harsh kick, and the man fell to the ground. Just as he got up, Ningxi stepped on his back, and his jaw hit the ground hard, blood flowing out of his mouth. Lu Jingli felt pain just looking at the scene, and he covered his eyes when he couldn't bear to watch it anymore. Sister-in-law is too brutal, ow ow ow. To turn green is to make yourself sick. Ningxi's technique was perfect, her movements natural and fluid, as if she did this a lot. Up to TED chapters nnvelben.com. In the end, she left one foot planted on the man's back, and rested one arm on her knee. The seductive genie from earlier had completely turned into a gangster. Give me your phone. The scumbag had been beaten until he couldn't tell up from down. He had no strength to fight back, and hearing her words, he hastily begged, "It's in my pocket, my wallet too, and there's a ring inside my wallet, everything is yours. Please spare my life, Wonder Woman." He wouldn't have thought in a million years that he would get robbed while out looking for a hookup. And the robber was a knockout. From her skills and her murderous aura, he could tell that she was a professional. Ningxi didn't care if this scumbag was misunderstanding the situation. She took his phone out straight away, then waved it in front of him. "Put your hand out, unlock it for me." Unlock it? What do you want to do? The scumbag said warily. Ningxi slapped him hard with barely a pause. "I told you to unlock it, so much rubbish. You don't believe I can disable that thing 3 inches under your belly button? I'll unlock it. Right now." The scumbag was scared shitless, and he quickly unlocked it. Ningxi found his wife's number in his contacts, and FaceTimed her. She picked up quickly. A woman's face appeared on the screen. She could tell that the woman's foundation was not bad, but maybe it was because she had stayed home too long doing housework and had neglected her skincare. She looked sallow like wax. It was a typical housewife's face, the kind that scumbags loathed. Who are you?" The woman's expression changed instantly when she saw Ningxi's stunning beauty, but then she said in an extremely exhausted voice, "I don't care who you are, from now on he can love whoever he wants or be with whomever he wants. I'm ready to divorce him, and I don't want any money from him. Whatever he does after this has nothing to do with me anymore. So leave me alone." Hearing this, Ningxi shook her head in disappointment. "TCH, you're going to let him off so easily? Sister, you're too kind." That woman hadn't expected Ningxi's unconventional attitude, and she couldn't help but stare blankly, before she asked warily, What do you mean?" The corners of Ningxi's mouth ticked up, and she pointed the phone's webcam at the scumbag she had beaten black and blue, lying under her foot. "See that?" After getting a clear view of the man on her phone, the woman was completely dumbfounded. The two of you, what is this?" Ningxi laughed lightly. "So? Does that feel good?" That woman recovered her senses after a long while, and even though she didn't understand what was going on, she looked at that man all banged up, and subconsciously said, "Yes." After saying that, her lips twisted with a trace of bitterness. Not so long ago, if he had gotten even a small scratch, she would have been worried to death. But now, seeing him cut such a sorry figure, she was unexpectedly pleased. "Heh, that's great. I didn't have any other reason to call you, just that instead of being happy alone, it's better to be happy together, which is why I wanted to show this to you. Now everyone can be happy together," Ningxi said in a careless manner. The woman was still in a daze, and didn't know how to react to this bizarre situation. As for the man under Ningxi's foot, that pig's face was all twisted up. He hadn't expected that this woman would insult him not only physically, but also mentally, and that she would show his wife, who had always admired him, this ugly state he was in. This woman didn't want money or valuables. Then why the hell was she messing with him? He really was so unlucky to have met a screwball like this. But he didn't know, the worst was yet to come. She suddenly thought of something, and patted herself on her head. She reminded the woman on the phone, that's right, later I'll send you a recording of him and his trash friends talking, it'll prove that he's having an affair. Why on earth wouldn't you want money out of the divorce? Did you knock your head on something? Get what you should get, and not a cent less. Understand? Yes, I understand. The woman was in awe of Ningxi's aura, and she replied subconsciously. Ningxi nodded in satisfaction, then said in a lecturing tone, "Yup, that should be the way. With money, you can look for any guy you want. Even if you encounter some that are not sincere, in any case, you can still keep a harem of studs and boy toys. And if they don't listen to you anymore, you can kick them out anytime. Wouldn't that be nice?" Find new Tories on nov/elbin.com. Woman. Scumbag. Not far away, Lu Jingli. He actually felt that sister-in-law's words were reasonable. Lu Tingxiao. The woman on the other end of the line was still utterly puzzled and couldn't help asking, "Thank you. But, who on earth are you? Why are you helping me? Have we met?" Ningxi smiled at the phone's webcam. "No need to thank me, you can just call me Lei Feng." Saying this, she ended the call, kicked the scumbag aside, then turned and left abruptly. Lu Jingli's jaw had dropped in stunned amazement. "Brother, there are some things that shouldn't be said, but I have to. Sister-in-law is so *****ing cool, I'm completely falling in love with her." Lu Tingxiao wasn't in the mood to deal with an overexcited Lu Jingli. He knitted his eyebrows tiredly, and there were traces on his face of him having just survived a disaster. Lu Jingli looked at his brother admiringly. "Brother, you are amazing. If you hadn't endured it, we would have missed such a great show." After saying that, Lu Jingli seemed to think of something, and he said with extreme excitement, "Talking about this, I suddenly remembered something. I was only able to get a list of names of the people Ningxi had dated back then. But they were all trash, without exception. Furthermore, in the end, it was Ningxi who dumped them. If you take Jiang Mai into account, and the fact that Jiang Mai always tries to avoid talking about the time they dated each other. I wonder if the reason she dated those trash men was similar to what she did today. Trap them, then carry out heaven's punishment, protecting love and justice." Lu Jingli sounded like he had just discovered something big, but Lu Tingxiao's expression showed that he wasn't the slightest bit moved. He had never believed that she was that type of person. And even if she had been, it didn't matter to him. Ningxi hummed a tune as she rode her motorbike. She felt refreshed, so refreshed, after beating up that scumbag. As expected, torturing a trash man was the best way to de-stress. Ningxi glanced at the time on her watch. It was 4 in the morning, still too early. She needed to wait until at least 6 o'clock before she returned. Then she could coincidentally bump into Lu Tingxiao in the living room. And so, Ningxi took a turn and headed west. Half an hour later, she arrived at a river bank. After she parked her motorbike, she sat down on the soft grass. Just nice, the cool breeze would sober her up in the cool breeze. And there was another good point about this location, which was, it had lots of mosquitoes. Ningxi lay down and chanted to herself, "Mosquito, mosquito, it's meal time, come bite me." Lei Feng is a term for the model citizen. Here was too spacious and empty, there was nowhere to hide the car, so they had to park further away. Luckily, Lu Jingli had a fly-sized drone with him, and because it was infrared, it could film at night. It was flying above Ningxi's head right now. All test NOVL on novelben/.cm. Ha ha ha, brother, I told you it would be useful. Lu Jingli was so pleased with himself that his tail was sticking right up to the sky. On the car monitor, Ningxi was lying on the grass under the dark sky, murmuring "Mosquitoes come bite me" repeatedly. Is sister-in-law drunk? Specially coming all the way here to feed the mosquitoes? Lu Jingli was speechless. Lu Tingxiao didn't say anything, as if he didn't think it was strange at all of his attention on the girl on the screen. Ningxi relaxed as the alcohol started to work. She closed her eyes, feeling dizzy. In her daze, she heard footsteps approaching her from behind, and the buzz of mosquitoes in her ear gradually disappeared. Her body, a little cold from the night air, was covered with warmth. The moment that familiar smell wrapped her up, the last bit of consciousness which she had been holding on to faded away like smoke. Because she was on her own, she hadn't dared to get completely drunk. She didn't know when it had happened herself, but there was unexpectedly someone in front of whom she could be safely drunk. Lu Tingxiao chased the mosquitoes away, and covered her with his coat. Then he put his arm under her head as a pillow, so that the grass wouldn't prick her skin. The girl clung to his clothes, sound asleep. Even through the heavy makeup she was wearing, he could see the childlike innocence on her face, and it couldn't help but make him want to dote on her. When Ningxi woke up, the horizon was already fishbelly white. She checked the time and saw that it was 5:30 in the morning. She had only taken a nap, but had actually slept for so long? Ningxi dusted her butt off, and looking at herself, she realized that unexpectedly, she hadn't gotten many mosquito bites at all. Nonetheless, there were just enough that she could use. She thought that since she had slept for so long, she would definitely have gotten hundreds of bites. But if that was really the case, it would have been too fake anyway. What was also strange was that though it was late autumn and she was next to the river, after waking up from her sleep, her body still felt, and she wasn't the slightest bit cold. Was it because of the alcohol? Half an hour later, she returned to the Lu residence. It had just turned 6 o'clock. In the living room, Lu Tingxiao was as usual drinking tea and reading the newspaper like a retired senior. So far, so good. Lu Tingxiao, morning. Ningxi entered the house and greeted him. Morning, you're back. Lu Tingxiao lifted his head from the newspaper. Ningxi was watching Lu Tingxiao's expression secretly, then she realized that it was too difficult to observe anything on a face that looked paralyzed in place. That was because he was expressionless most of the time, and this time was no different. Ningxi didn't give up, and directly sat down on the sofa opposite Lu Tingxiao. She deliberately touched her neck. There was no way that he wouldn't see it from this close, right? As expected, Lu Tingxiao's eyes wandering over her neck and those incriminating red dots on her bare skin, then he knitted his eyebrows together more heavily. Ningxi pretended she didn't notice, and yawned. So tired, I'm so sleepy. Why do you have so many mosquito bites? Lu Tingxiao asked. Pooh, cough cough cough. Ningxi almost choked to death on her own saliva. Are you kidding me? I dress like this to go to a nightclub, and I'm only back the next morning. As a normal, red-blooded man, seeing these incriminating marks, shouldn't you assume straight away that they are hickeys? What bitten by mosquitoes? She had gone to a bar. A bar! How could she have been bitten by mosquitoes? Lord Boss! Where is your high IQ and logic? But she also couldn't eagerly tell him that this was a hickey. That would be too weird. The plan failed, and Ningxi felt like she was in so much pain she didn't want to live anymore. At this moment, Lu Tingxiao put down the newspaper and stood up to open the drawer below the TV cabinet. He took out a small white bottle and walked over to her. Ningxi raised her head and watched him warily. "Big brother, what are you doing now? This medicine oil is very effective for mosquito bites." Saying this, Lu Tingxiao took the lid off, poured some oil into his palm, then placed his warm palm on her neck. The instant he touched her neck, Ningxi jumped up as if she had been electrocuted. I'll do it myself. Don't move. There is all medicine all over my hands, Lu Tingxiao admonished her. His rough fingers were incomparably gentle as he applied the oil on her neck, her collarbone, and what he could see of her back. Massaging the oil into her skin, his expression was serious, as if he was carrying out a solemn and important task. Because of the oil, the places where his fingers touched felt cool, but under her skin, it was slowly burning up. After quite a while, Lu Tingxiao was finally done. "How is it?" Ningxi came to her senses. She touched the places where the mosquitoes had bitten her, and blinked. Then she said in a very amazed voice, "How strange. It really isn't itchy at all anymore. What medicine is this? Why is it so effective?" Right after she said it, Ningxi really wanted to bite off her own tongue. She actually let it slip herself. It looked like her premonition had really come true. She had really failed utterly miserably. Ningxi's head drooped pathetically like a miserable, defeated cat, and she muttered discontentedly, "Lu Tingxiao. I went out drinking. It's okay to drink occasionally. I'll help you keep it a secret from little treasure. I went to a nightclub. As long as you're careful. I stayed out all night. Lu Tingxiao, aren't you angry at all?" Ningxi finally got angry. "Do you want me to be angry?" Lu Tingxiao said lightly, gazing at her with deep eyes. Ningxi goggled. He actually turned the tables on her. Find the new ST-ovals on n//velben.com. Lu Tingxiao helped her remove a blade of grass stuck to her hair. "I've said before, you can consider this place your own home, and do as you like." Saying this, Lu Tingxiao suddenly paused, and then returned to the previous topic. "Actually, I don't like it at all when you go out on your own late at night to places like the bar or nightclub, since it makes me so worried that I can't sleep the whole night. However, I still respect your freedom." With a poof, Ningxi's chest was struck by Cupid's arrow. Ugh, she couldn't fight this battle anymore. The enemy was simply one-sidedly crushing her. Ningxi continued going to bars for a week, but it didn't work at all. The only effect was, because she had taken care of quite a number of scumbags in succession, almost all the bars in the city started to impose a new rule, to strictly investigate any beauty they encountered. Alas, everything was going wrong. In the end, Ningxi eased up a little. Of course, she never forgot the most important thing, and continued to concentrate on taking Little Treasure out to play, as they went almost everywhere in the whole capital. The biggest gain during this period was that Little Treasure had become more open in her company. He wasn't afraid to go out anymore, and apart from still not speaking and being a little introverted, he was almost already like a normal child. What a relief! This way, she could finally relax when she left. On one particular morning, Ningxi went downstairs and saw a scene that she hadn't seen for a long time. Little Bun and Big Bun sat opposite each other at the table, one face cold as an iceberg and the other face cold as a little iceberg. It was clear from the atmosphere that they were at loggerheads. What was this situation? This father and son pair hadn't quarreled in a long time. What's wrong with the both of you? Ningxi asked suspiciously. Hearing Ningxi's voice, Little Bun immediately clung to her leg as if he had seen his savior, then stared warily at Lu Tingxiao, as if his father was about to sell him off. Ningxi held Little Treasure and comforted him for a bit, then looked in Lu Tingxiao's direction. Lu Tingxiao, what's going on? Lu Tingxiao raised his eyes. I'm sending him to stay with my parents for several days. They haven't seen him in a long time, and they miss him very much. So it's like that. Ningxi nodded in understanding. Seeing this, Little Bun became anxious, and the watery gleam in his big eyes quickly became a layer of misty tears. Ningxi's heart was instantly softened. Scratching her head, she looked at Lu Tingxiao. There isn't any other way? Lu Tingxiao glanced at her. There is. Have my parents stay here for several days. It's better to send Little Treasure to them after all. Ningxi said decisively. Sorry, Little Bun, Auntie also has no choice. Little Treasure was instantly struck a great blow. With the expression of a child unloved by his dad and mom, he ran upstairs to hide in his room. Ningxi laughed hollowly. I'll go persuade him. Upstairs, Ningxi knocked on Little Treasure's room door. Darling, would you please open the door for Auntie? Explore new novels on nvelbai.com. There was no reaction from inside the room. Are you really going to ignore me? There was still no reaction from inside the room. It seemed he was really angry. Ningxi sighed, but she couldn't do anything about it. She could only go back downstairs, and then she walked outside. When Lu Tingxiao saw this, he didn't even lift his head. Don't climb with your bare hands. Have the butler prepare a ladder for you. After hearing his words, Ningxi nearly tripped. Was this guy a worm in her stomach? How did he know she was going to climb the wall and get in through a window? Damn. Lately, she realized that Lu Tingxiao was understanding her better and better. There were plenty of times where with just one expression in her eyes or one small gesture, he knew what she wanted to do in the next second. 5 minutes later, Ningxi climbed a ladder and entered Little Treasure's room without a hitch. As soon as the little guy saw her, he threw himself into her arms with his eyes full of tears. His little expression was indescribably aggrieved. Just now, when there had suddenly been no more reaction outside his room, he had thought that Ningxi really didn't want him any longer. Ningxi held Little Bun lovingly. Darling, Auntie is on your side all the time. It's just that this time, Auntie really thinks you should go. Think about it, your grandparents only have you their precious grandson, and they clearly love you very much, but they respect your wishes and so don't dare come see you. Little Treasure hung his head. After a long while, he took up his tablet and wrote one word, together. Meaning that he wanted Ningxi to go together with him. Ningxi coughed softly with embarrassment. I can't do that. How could she go to Lu Tingxiao's parents' house at such a time? Because Auntie is going to start work soon, I'm afraid I won't have the time. Ningxi found a good excuse, then hurriedly coaxed him. But Auntie and your dad can send you off together. Be good. Little Treasure is already a 5-year-old little man, and you've made such great progress lately. You're getting better and better, and more amazing. You can definitely do this small thing, right? Ningxi held Little Bun, and kissed and coaxed him as she talked to him for half an hour. At last, the little guy relented. The old Lu residence stood halfway up a mountain and occupied a large area of mountains and forests. It took over 20 minutes to drive from the front gate to the house. There were lush trees on both sides and the scenery was very beautiful. The rumor was that the Dragon Vein was located here, in the feng shui jewel of the capital. Thanks to Little Treasure, she was also expanding her knowledge. Through the window, Ningxi saw the two Lu elders already waiting at the door, their faces full of eager anticipation, and no different from the average grandparent who doted on their grandson. Ningxi patted little Bun in her arms. "Go on! Don't forget what Auntie said to you, good luck." Looking at the encouragement and expectation in Ningxi's eyes, little Bun nodded his head resolutely, and Lu Tingxiao took him out of the car. With every step he took, he would turn around to look at Ningxi. Seeing their precious grandson, the two elders were overjoyed, and hurriedly went to meet him. Madame Lu was so excited that her eyes were wet, and she grumbled as she looked at her eldest son. "Brat, we endured so many months not seeing little treasure. In the end you still haven't given me my daughter-in-law." Lu Tingxiao coughed slightly, and motioned at the person in the car behind them. At this distance, it was likely that Ningxi could hear them. Read latest OVLS at nv/e/l/buy.com. As a matter of fact, Ningxi really did hear it. Relying on the fact that with the car's particular windows, people outside couldn't see inside, Ningxi had directly pressed her ear against the window to eavesdrop on what they were saying. Then she heard Madame Lu's remark. Madame Lu was instantly excited. "Oh, my! The daughter-in-law is here as well? Have her get out of the car to meet us." "Mom," Lu Tingxiao said helplessly. "She's shy, don't scare her." Ningxi nodded furiously. Yes, I'm shy, please don't ask me to get out of the car." Fortunately, Master Lu's words at this moment diverted everyone's attention. "What is Little Treasure writing?" Master Lu asked suspiciously. Hearing her husband's words, Madame Lu then also realized that at some point, Little Treasure had started busily writing something. A moment later, Little Treasure raised his tablet and looked at his grandfather and grandmother with eyes as clear and bright as black pearls. On the tablet: "Grandfather, grandmother, Little Treasure missed you very much." After clearly reading the words on the tablet, Master Lu and Madame Lu looked at each other thunderstruck, then their eyes turned red. Madame Lu looked at her husband in disbelief. Did I read that wrong? Little Treasure finally called me grandmother." Even though it wasn't a literal call, it was the first time that Little Treasure had addressed her as grandmother. Before, he always ignored them and even rejected them. "He also called me grandfather," Master Lu said solemnly, yet proudly. "He even said he missed us very much." Madame Lu couldn't help herself anymore, and cried as she hugged Little Treasure. "Grandmother's darling. Do you know how happy grandmother is?" Master Lu sighed, then looked at his eldest son, and said seriously, "Tingxiao, the one you like, she is very good. She's taught Little Treasure very well." He only knew that Little Treasure had opened up a lot more, and was now willing to go out, but he hadn't expected in a million years that Little Treasure's progress would be this amazing. It was really too surprising. "Isn't she? And he's well fed. Look at how fat my grandson is now. He's put on even more weight than the last time I saw in the photo." Madame Lu was very pleased. She's wonderful." Lu Tingxiao looked in the direction of the car behind him, his gaze incomparably tender. Master Lu patted him on the shoulder and said meaningfully, "Boy, good luck. It's natural to have to work harder to obtain the best. We'll support and assist you in any way we can." Including Master Lu and Madame Lu, Lu Tingxiao had splendidly achieved his goal of full assistance from the whole Lu family. Inside the car, seeing Lu Tingxiao bid his parents and Little Treasure goodbye and then walk back in her direction, Ningxi hurriedly sat up, and pretended that she hadn't heard anything. On the way back, Lu Tingxiao suddenly asked, "What are you doing today?" "Today?" Hearing this question, Ningxi stared blankly. That was right. Today she didn't need to accompany Little Treasure, and because it was Saturday, Lu Tingxiao didn't need to go to work. Wouldn't that mean that she had to spend the whole day with him, a single woman and a single man, at home, alone? Realizing that she had fallen into a trap, Ningxi just felt stupid. This was a one-step, one-trap pattern, and as soon as she wasn't careful, she would fall in. At this moment, her cell phone rang. Picking the phone up to take a look, Ningxi's eyes narrowed slightly. Chang Li? Why was she calling her? Ningxi picked up the call and said in a surprised tone, "Yo, big manager Chang, who is always so busy with work, actually has time to personally call me." Hearing the words "always so busy with work," Chang Li felt so much hatred she almost bit through her gums. Before, while Ning Xuelua's career was flourishing, she had naturally been so busy running around every day, it was like her feet didn't have time to touch the ground. But after that incident, the number of endorsements and film and TV opportunities for Ning Xuelua all plunged. Not just that, many companies which had signed endorsement deals with her before were now demanding compensation, and Starlight had also asked Ning Xuelua to keep a low profile during this period until the incident had passed. Apart from Ning Xuelua, she had no other successful artiste under her, which meant that she would have to live on air for the next half a year. Chang Li said crossly, "I've called to tell you to move out immediately. You've already betrayed the company and broken your contract. Do you think you can still occupy the company's apartment? In that area, we can rent it out for more than 1,000 yuan a month." Heh, in the capital, was a monthly rental of more than 1,000 worth bragging about? All test NOVL on novelben/.cm. Ningxi didn't have time to talk nonsense with her, so she casually said, "Got it. I'm hanging up if there's nothing else." Before she could do so, Chang Li scolded her aggressively. "Ningxi, search your heart and ask yourself, wasn't the company good to you? Nowadays, which company would provide an obscure, new artiste with accommodation? Many small-time artists can go months without a job, but you at least always had work. The company had been prepared to nurture you and make you popular. Even though that thing happened to you, the company didn't give up on you. But you forgot your roots and climbed your way up by stepping all over us." Ningxi made a tisk sound. Manager Chang's talent at inverting right and wrong is really improving every day. If you're so justified, why don't you just share it online? Chang Li instantly choked. She actually had said all this online, the end result being that she had been viciously scolded and cursed at by netizens. Unwilling to admit defeat, Chang Li snorted and sneered. There are lots of big names at Glory World Entertainment, and the competition there is fiercer than it is in Starlight. Do you think that as soon as you jump across, you'll get your moment to shine? How ridiculous! You're just a chess piece the company is using to attack Starlight. Do you really think that Glory World values you that much? When the time comes, don't come crying and begging to me then." Saying that, she hung up the phone with a loud bang. Ningxi shrugged and gave Lu Tingxiao beside her a look. "Now I have something to do today." "What?" "Chang Li just called to tell me that they're taking back the apartment which Starlight arranged for me. My stuff is still there. So, I have to move out." Let's go." Lu Tingxiao nodded and drove in the direction of her apartment. Ningxi had thought she had dodged a bullet, but seeing what he was doing, she became nervous. "I can go myself. I have so many things. I'll ask the moving company to come later and pick them up with a truck." "It's fine, they'll fit." In Ningxi's heart, no matter how spacious your car is inside, there is no way it'll be able to fit everything. Do you think you're Doraemon? But Lu Tingxiao looked certain, so she didn't want to argue further, and could only let him drive all the way to her apartment building. Forget it, moving house together was a safer option, at least it wouldn't create anything remotely close to an intimate atmosphere. When they arrived at the apartment, Ningxi pushed the door open. Everything inside the room was covered with a layer of dust since no one had been living there for a while. At some point, the window had also been blown open by the wind, and there were leaves everywhere. The cold autumn wind blew through the window. Lu Tingxiao stood at the entrance, a tall and slim figure. He swept his gaze over every corner of the room with some warmth in his cold eyes. "What is it?" Ningxi didn't understand as she looked at him. Check out LTSTVL on novl/bin.cm. Nothing. Lu Tingxiao stopped looking around. This was a tiny, run-down apartment which Starlight had arranged for her, but it held precious memories of the two of them. Later he would arrange for someone to purchase the building straight away. "What can I do?" Lu Tingxiao asked. Ningxi scratched her head and found a large empty box, then pointed at the tall bookshelf. "You're tall, can you help me pack all the books in here?" "All right." Lu Tingxiao rolled his sleeves up, ready to begin. Ningxi looked at his clothes, which were probably more expensive than this apartment, and touched her forehead as if she had a headache. Wait a minute." Saying that, she pulled out a doctor's white coat from who knows where, and stood in front of him. "Take your coat off and put this on so that you don't get dust on your clothes." Lu Tingxiao obediently removed his suit jacket, looking at the white coat with curious surprise. "Where did you get this?" "It's a costume. I was working with a production team that was too poor to buy their actors' clothes, so I bought it myself." Saying this, Ningxi gave it to him to put on. "Luckily it's quite loose." As soon as she said that, she looked at Lu Tingxiao and was struck completely dumb. She couldn't help swallowing, and couldn't hide the impressed look on her face. Lu Tingxiao looked too good in a white coat. This was straight-up uniform temptation. Hey! Holy shit, even moving house was not safe. What's wrong? Ningxi shook her head and came back to her senses. Nothing, then let's start. I'll go pack up all my clothes. Lu Tingxiao nodded and looked at Ningxi's fleeing back before he started packing up the books. Lu Tingxiao might look unhurried when he did things, but actually he was swift and very productive, and he cleared the bookshelf very quickly. As he continued to move books, a picture fell out of a book of Shakespeare's collected works. Lu Tingxiao picked it up. There was a group of young people in the picture, wearing clothes in punk and metal styles. Ningxi was in the middle. She had extremely short hair, was dressed head to toe in a black motorbike suit, and had a free and confident smile on her face, looking like a handsome young boy. Her arm was resting on a man's shoulder, and she had turned her head to talk to him. They looked intimate, so presumably they were very close to each other. As for that man, his head was turned to the side as he lit a cigarette, plus the lighting was dim, so instead of a clear image, he was nothing more than a blurry side profile. Instinct told him, this was YS, the person Ningxi once said was extremely dangerous, but she believed would never hurt her. Lu Tingxiao looked at the man's side profile for a very long time. A thought flashed through his head, but it was so quick that it was gone by the time he tried to catch hold of it. What did he feel that this person was somehow familiar? Was it someone he knew? Find EU chapters on nv/lbi.com. Lu Tingxiao, I'm almost done here. Are you done? Ningxi dragged a huge suitcase behind her and turned her head to ask. Done. Lu Tingxiao put the picture back without being noticed. 10 minutes later, Ningxi was standing downstairs with bags of different sizes. Then, she finally understood why Lu Tingxiao was sure that all her things would fit. A Lincoln limousine was parked outside quietly. Ugh. There was no humanity in the world. Ningxi hastily pulled down the brim of her cap, and as swiftly as possible, carefully stuffed all her things into the car, then quickly urged the driver to start the car. Because things had happened so suddenly, she hadn't had time to get changed, and if she was photographed now, it would absolutely make the news headlines. Sister Gigi had already told her to keep a low profile during this period, since she had created a big enough buzz. If things continued like this, it would be easy to attract negative public opinion. As if sensing her worry, Lu Tingxiao said, "Don't worry, reporters recognize the car plates." Meaning, they would in no way dare to mess with the car owner. Okay, she was thinking too much. The big demon king was always prepared. On the way to her new apartment, Lu Tingxiao suddenly said her name, Ningxi. Ningxi raised her head from where she had been absent-mindedly lost in thought. "Ah. What is it?" Supporting his head with one hand, Lu Tingxiao's gaze was deep as he looked at her. "I seem to remember you saying before that if I wanted to chase a girl, you would teach me." A bomb exploded in Ningxi's head. She cursed herself in a very quiet voice, then laughed awkwardly. I said that? Surely not. He. You did. And you even said you would make sure I learn the right tricks. On the day we went to your apartment to get your spices, you received 2 package deliveries. One of them was a birthday gift from your ex-boyfriend. You said that he was lame at chasing girls, and told me not to learn for him, Lu Tingxiao reminded her as he recited all the details. Ningxi wanted to slap herself so badly. Watch your mouth. Why didn't you think before you speak? Digging your own grave. So there is a girl you want to chase now? Ningxi could only pretend to be thick-skinned and ask. Lu Tingxiao nodded. There were stars in his eyes, and he looked at Ningxi as if she was the whole world. So, teach me. F******. Teach her, but you only need to use that expression to look at any random girl, and they will all come flying themselves. Why would you need to chase them? No choice, she had said it herself, there was no use crying over spilled milk. Ningxi coughed lightly, and acted like she didn't know anything as she lectured. There's a popular online saying, if she is not worldly enough, take her to see the bustling world, if she is experienced, take her on a carousel. Meaning, give the prescription according to the symptoms. What type of girl is the one you like? She. Lu Tingxiao paused, like he was thinking about something, and after a while, the ice in his eyes melted, and he said with a tender smile on his face, she knows the world but isn't worldly, she's a wild spirit but is kind and gentle, she has experienced so much, but has maintained her purity and innocence all this time, she is the most wonderful girl I have ever met. Knew the world but wasn't worldly. A wild spirit but kind and gentle. Experienced a lot, but maintained her purity and innocence all this time. The most wonderful girl. Ayaya! The teenage girl inside this old madam. Ningxi clutched her chest, feeling like her crazily pounding heart was about to fall out. Was there anyone who didn't like to hear compliments about themselves? Not to mention, Lu Tingxiao had hit her in all the softest spots in her heart with his sincere and skillful words. Wasn't Lu Tingxiao supposed to be above mere mortals, restrained and cold? It wasn't logical that he was so good with words. The big demon king was seriously waiting for her next move. Ningxi really wanted to give him 3 big kowtows and beg him to let her go. You ultimate level, mighty big name, you still need me to guide you? Ningxi coughed slightly, and said heavily, Lord Boss, the way I see it, with your inner and outer qualities and your levels of perception, you totally don't need me to teach you at all. If the other party still hasn't fallen for you the way you are, then there is only one possibility. Lu Tingxiao put his hand down and narrowed his eyes slightly. What possibility? Ningxi took a deep breath, and said decisively, you are not her type. Not her type. A gust of freezing wind blew in from the north with these words. Ningxi swallowed, and fought to meet the big demon king's gaze, which was like cold blades. She nodded with certainty. Yes. To put it another way, some like carrots, some like cabbages, and those who like carrots won't like cabbages, no matter how good they are. Lu Tingxiao tapped the armrest of his seat with one finger. After 3 seconds of silence, he said slowly, "What if I'm sure I'm a carrot?" Ningxi. F*******. What do you mean you're sure you're a carrot? Are you so sure that this old woman likes you? How can you be so smart? Then maybe she has another carrot in mind? 1 carrot, 1 hole, that hole already has 1 carrot in it, of course it's not easy for another carrot to get in. Ningxi twitched at her own metaphor. Why the heck had she chosen to use carrot, out of all things? Another carrot she likes. Lu Tingxiao murmured, a glint in his eyes. Who? Now, the freezing wind had become a tornado. Ningxi, who was in the center of it, felt there was no hope for her anymore. She pretended to look at the view outside the window, and said with an awkward laugh, "I'm not a fortune teller, how would I know? I think it's better that you keep things as they are right now to be safe, otherwise what if the other party really likes someone else? When the time comes, and you can't even remain friends anymore, then what?" Lu Tingxiao's lips were pressed together, and his face looked like frost. He didn't say a word for a long time, and the air pressure inside the confines of the car was so low it was as if it was going to start hailing. Just as Ningxi felt that she could no breathe because of the pressure, Lu Tingxiao finally opened his mouth and said, "Find PT Tez on n/vln.cm. Then I will pull that carrot out." Ningxi. Pull that carrot out. Big brother, why do you have to use such scary words? At first she had wanted to find a shield, but could it stop the big demon king's hit? It couldn't even stop a strand of hair. Pathetic, communication failed again. Would only her ultimate move work? She hoped it wouldn't come to that point. Ningxi's new place was on the 7th floor of the Regal Riviera Hotel. It was a 3-bedroom apartment with a living room, decorated in a simple style and very comfortable. There was a beautiful view of the river from the balcony. Compared with her old, small apartment, the difference was like between heaven and earth. She and Lu Tingxiao, plus the driver, took all her things up in 3 trips. Looking at the bits and bobs in the apartment, Ningxi wiped her sweat. "There's 1 more bag, I'll go get it." Lu Tingxiao nodded. I'll start organizing." "Wait, I forgot something." Ningxi took out a rectangular gift box from one of the boxes. "What is this?" Lu Tingxiao asked. Ningxi smiled mysteriously. "Use this to coax girls." Downstairs. Ningxi finally had the very last bag. When she walked into the lobby, she saw the young female receptionist sizing her up. When she saw that Ningxi had noticed her, she immediately put her head back down and pretended to be busy. The receptionist at the Regal Riviera had seen so many stars, and was used to it, but Ningxi had become too popular recently, so suddenly seeing her had been a bit of a surprise, not to mention that she had come today with an especially mysterious man. Ningxi smiled easily at the young girl, then walked over to her. The receptionist was astonished to see her walk over herself. Then she screwed up her courage to say, "You're Ningxi, right?" Ningxi nodded. "Yes, I just moved in today." Saying that, she gave her the black gift box. "Nice to meet you, this is a little gift for you, I hope we'll get along well. Get the latest chapters on n/velbin.com. This. I can't accept this." "It's okay. Someone gave this to me, it didn't cost anything, please take it. You have beautiful lips, they will definitely look good on you." The young girl touched her lips and blushed. Then, thank you. You're welcome. After Ningxi left, the young girl opened the box to take a look and was very pleasantly surprised. It was actually 12 tubes of lipstick, all in different colors. God! She loved this brand, but it was just too expensive for her to buy, and her boyfriend was too dumb to think of getting them for her, instead always giving her bizarre things. Shit, was it so hard to get her one measly tube of lipstick? She never expected that Ningxi would be such a good person. Even though she had gotten many gifts from stars, they were all given with an arrogant attitude, and some gave away things that they didn't want anymore, like it was charity. Ningxi was different, making her so happy with her gift. It was obvious with one look that the gift had been carefully prepared. Most people looked down upon employees like her. Little did they know that given her job, she knew so many secrets. At the elevator. The elevator doors opened with a ding. Outside the doors, Ningxi got a clear look of the person inside, and she knitted her eyebrows together. She never expected to run into Changli here. Ningxi. Changli said in surprise, then addressed her as if she was a thief. What are you doing here? Ningxi rolled her eyes. Is this your house? Are you the only person that can come here? Changli crossed her arms and looked down her nose at how she was covered from head to toe in dust. Heh, even if this isn't my house, it's still not a place people like you can come to. Ningxi walked past her to directly enter the elevator, and she pressed the button to shut the doors. Well, excuse me, I live here. Struck dumb, Changli was rooted to the spot as she watched the doors close with suspicion. Ningxi lived here? Impossible. But you needed a key card to get in and out, so how did she get in? Changli muttered to herself as she walked to in the end, she gave in to her curiosity, and went to ask the receptionist. Xiaofeng, the girl who came in just now, that was Ningxi, does she live here? Changli asked. Xiaofeng had both a polite and troubled expression on her face. Miss Chang, that concerns the privacy of our residence, which we cannot disclose. You already know how strict management is. Changli slipped a gift card into her hand. Little sister, do me a favor. I just want to know if she really lives here. It's not a sensitive issue, and won't affect you. Xiaofeng glanced disdainfully at the gift card as she thought in her heart, you always boss me around so arrogantly, and now that you want something from me, you know how to talk and act nice? She wanted to give it back, but then changed her mind. Taking the card, she said, yes, she lives here, the information was registered with us around half a month ago. Hearing this, Changli's eyes lit up. Who's the owner? Seeing her expression, Xiaofeng knew instantly what she was thinking, and said, it was registered under Glory World Entertainment, no doubt her company arranged accommodation for her. Changli blinked dumbly. What? Are you sure? She had thought she could catch Ningxi out with this. Xiaofeng said in a confident tone, how can it be a mistake, that suite is the best one in the whole of Regal Riveria. It's facing the river and the view is especially good. It had always been vacant, up until half a month ago, when Glory World staff brought workers in to redecorate the whole place, and wrote down her information on the registration form. Got it, thanks. Changli's face was black as she left. Sheet, was Glory World Entertainment insane? Actually giving a newbie like Ningxi such good privileges. She thought about her conversation with Ningxi not too long ago, about how nice it had been of Starlight to arrange accommodation for her. This simply felt like she was slapping her own face. Looks like she needed to keep an eye on Ningxi, and figure out once and for all who the person supporting the slut was. With Lu Tingxiao's help, Ningxi finished unpacking her things in half a day. Looking at everything in their place and how organized things were, her mood brightened up. She had been feeling that everything was surreal after signing with Glory World. Now, looking at what would be her home for the near future, she finally felt reality start to creep back in. Ningxi gave Lu Tingxiao a new towel to wipe off his sweat, and thanked him. "I'm really grateful for your help today. How about I treat you to dinner?" No matter what, Lu Tingxiao had been busy the whole day helping her move house. The least she could do was treat him to a meal. "How about we stay in to eat?" Lu Tingxiao asked. Ningxi scratched her head. "Ah, but the gas hasn't been connected yet in the kitchen, and there's nothing here. I'm afraid I won't be able to cook." "It's fine, you don't need to do anything. Today has been very tiring." Lu Tingxiao made a phone call and only said 2 words to the person on the other end: "Come in." In the next second, the doorbell rang. Ningxi opened the door suspiciously, then jumped in shock. People in uniform were standing neatly in 2 rows outside the door, each one of them holding a gourmet dish in their hands. Discover NW Chapter SNN0EL by.com. The young brother standing in front of them held a big bouquet of lilies. Standing tall and straight, Lu Tingxiao walked over with strong, steady steps and took the flowers from that young brother, then turned to Ningxi. "For you." Seeing that big bunch of white lilies, Ningxi blinked in a daze, and took it reflexively. Then the waiters came in one after another to spread a tablecloth and put down candlesticks. Within 5 short minutes, they had set up an incomparably exquisite candlelight dinner. Bowing, the well-trained waiters then left. So this was what Lu Tingxiao meant about staying in to eat. She thought he meant to cook at home. She was too naive. Just now she had seen that the waiters' uniforms were engraved with the words Red Chamber. Red Chamber was the most famous private restaurant in B City's aristocratic circle. It cooked for only 1 table every day, and reservations were lined up until next year. This restaurant also had a rule that you couldn't order any dishes, you ate whatever they cooked. It was this type of restaurant, yet Lu Tingxiao was actually able to get them to do takeouts. Ningxi looked at the flowers, and then looked at the candlelight dinner. Aren't these all the signs of a confession?" a small voice in Ningxi's head whispered fearfully. Lu Tingxiao had deliberately sent Little Treasure away today, arranged these things in advance, and even asked her how to chase girls, which was a very leading question. Was he really going to? Why was it that the more she thought, the more she panicked? The next second, her gaze landed on the little dessert stand next to the table. There can't possibly be an engagement ring hidden in the cake, right? Cough, cough, cough. Impossible. Impossible. Given Lu Tingxiao's character, there was no way he would use a method that was so easy to guess. Don't like the food? Seeing that her complexion wasn't good, Lu Tingxiao frowned slightly, and then picked up the phone. "I'll have them remove these and bring other ones." Ningxi hurriedly waved her hands. No need, no need. They're all dishes I like. What I meant was, I should be the one treating you. How did it turn into you treating me?" "It's the same," Lu Tingxiao said indifferently. Then he pulled out the chair for her like a gentleman. Cough. "Thank you." Ningxi could only sit down. She cautiously observed Lu Tingxiao, then realized a particular detail. Today was not a work day, so accordingly he should be dressed in casual clothes. But today he was dressed up smartly, and had put on a bow tie for the first time. After sitting down, Ningxi realized in her absent-mindedness, she had forgotten that she was still holding the flowers in her arms, so she hurriedly looked for a vase to arrange them in. "Like it?" asked Lu Tingxiao. "What?" Ningxi was taken aback. "The lilies. I like them very much." I think lilies suit you very well." Ningxi. Was he talking about how the lily stood for purity, or a harmonious union lasting 100 years? Read latest chapters at n/velbi.co/m. Eat up. Lu Tingxiao passed her some food with his chopsticks. It's fine, I'll help myself. To conceal her anxiety, Ningxi began to wolf down her food. When she ate until her stomach started to feel uncomfortable, she finally realized something was off. She had a half-eaten cake in one hand, and she knitted her brows as she looked at the man opposite her. Lu Tingxiao hadn't eaten very much, but he had opened a bottle of wine which he had been drinking by himself. The bottle looked like it was almost empty now. Lu Tingxiao, why are you just drinking wine, and so much of it? I didn't see you eat very much, Piu. Ningxi still had some cake in her mouth when she spoke, and while she was talking, she suddenly bit down on something hard, and hurriedly opened her mouth to spit it out. What the hell, what is this thing, my teeth are numb. With a ding, a sparkling ring fell onto the white porcelain plate in front of her. Ningxi goggled and stared at the ring on the plate, her eyes large as bulbs and her expression completely stunned. me. Ning. She. You. Are. A. Crow. Mouth. She had actually hit the nail on the head. She had been on guard against him the whole time. She had always subconsciously thought that in chasing a girl, the big demon king would swoop in with one single brilliant move that would be impossible to guard against. How could she have expected such an old-fashioned method? And yet, the end result was still impossible for her to guard against. Had the big demon king deliberately acted the opposite of his normal behavior? At this moment, what Ningxi regretted the most was not swallowing the ring straightaway to destroy the evidence. Beneath Ningxi's lifeless gaze, Lu Tingxiao finished the last of the wine. He put down the glass and looked at her with deep eyes. I have been drinking because I'm nervous. Ningxi. He was nervous? Who should actually be the nervous one? Lu Tingxiao's face changed from cold ice to tipsy mist, but his eyes, dark as the night, were clear and bright. His cool voice was like raindrops falling into a deep pool. I have never done anything that I'm uncertain about, but this time, I did. New N0vel chapters are published on N0V/E/LBIN. Co/M. This is probably the most impulsive thing I've ever done in my life, but I have no choice, and I have no room for regret. No matter whether I step forward or retreat, you have already decided to keep your distance from me. It's just the difference between doing it later or sooner. I have been planning this day from the first day I met you, and I've made countless plans. But you are becoming more and more afraid of me, and for you now, it seems that all those ways would only frighten you, so I chose the most traditional and gentlest method. Ningxi was speechless when she heard these few words. The gentlest method, thank you so much for being so considerate. But I'm still freaking scared, okay? Lu Tingxiao paused, then raised his head and continued speaking. No matter what way I use, I'm not confident that I can fully move you. Though the plan today is already the most dependable one that I can think of, I calculated that it only has a 17% chance of success. Ningxi, huh? What 17%? How the heck did he come up with this magical number? Cough, that. Out of her wits, Ningxi unconsciously reached for some wine. Discovering that Lu Tingxiao had finished it, she poured herself a full glass of fruit juice, and gulped it all down. Ningxi set the glass down with a bang, and finally found her voice. Lu Tingxiao, you're practicing how to profess your love for the girl you like, right? Great, traditional and classic, low-key but not losing any of its meaning, the lines are sensational enough. Lu Tingxiao silently looked at the girl opposite him. He pushed his chair back slightly, stood up, stretched his long arm across the table, used his fingertips to pinch her chin, and in the next second, he leaned over to kiss her lips. Ningxi's voice was abruptly cut off. It was only 3 seconds later that she reacted, but Lu Tingxiao gripped the back of her head and kissed her more deeply. The room was so silent that one could hear a pin drop. There was only the sound of quick breathing, the sound of clothes rubbing against each other, and of lips and tongues tangled together. The temperature in the room rose quietly. Some indeterminate time later, Lu Tingxiao finally broke the kiss. He slowly moved away from her lips, but his palms still cradled the nape of her neck, and he leaned his forehead against hers softly. A crow mouth is a doomsayer. A crow mouth is a doomsayer. Ningxi's eyes were closed, her eyelashes flickering slightly, and when she spoke, her voice was a little hoarse. Lu Tingxiao, why won't you listen to your teacher? It hadn't been that long ago that she had told him that he should maintain the status quo and not act rashly. In the end, he had turned the other way to directly profess his love and propose. This was simply the biggest trap. The teacher teaches the trade, but the apprentice's skill is self-made, Lu Tingxiao could still say in a very reasonable tone. Teacher didn't teach you to act indecently. But this was the only way to let you know that the one I like is you, teacher. Then this is being insubordinate. Then that must be because teacher is too cute. Lu Tingxiao leaned his forehead against hers, and took hold of her slender fingers with his big palm to place them over his heart. At that moment, his clear, cold eyes burned like lava, and it was as if he was casting a spell on her with his persuasive tone. Teacher, be with me, and everything that I have will be yours. Stop talking. Ningxi's brain was in a mess, especially when he called her teacher, which gave her a strange sense of shame. She tried to cover her ears, but was still too late. Lu Tingxiao said, "Little treasure is also yours." Ningxi's pupils suddenly contracted. Lu Tingxiao quietly observed her reaction. When he saw her staring at him with big round eyes, the corners of his mouth tilted upward slightly. His palms kneaded the sensitive flesh at her nape, as if he was teasing a kitten. So what is the percentage now? Ningxi covered her face and subconsciously answered, "It's already half and half." As soon as she said it, she really wanted to bite her tongue off. Sheet! Lu Tingxiao, you're too shameless. Even using little treasure. Little treasure is my natural advantage, how can you say I'm using him? Top VL updates on n/o/v/lb/in.com. Then what do you say to using a honey trap on me? Ningxi was indignant at the injustice done to her. Even if she wanted to break free of Lu Tingxiao's palms, which were keeping her where he wanted her, Lu Tingxiao wasn't using any force to keep her in place, so no matter how she wanted to, she couldn't bring herself to break out of his hold. Did I? Lu Tingxiao sounded innocent. Okay. You didn't use one, but it looked lewd to me, so it was lewd, all right. Lu Tingxiao. Ningxi was angry, but halfway through, she suddenly felt something was wrong. Ningxi paled and she clutched her stomach. My stomach hurts. What? Where does it hurt? Lu Tingxiao's face immediately became serious. Stomach. It really hurts. It's getting more and more painful. Sweat rolled down Ningxi's forehead. What's going on? You were perfectly all right, why do you suddenly have a stomachache? Was there something wrong with the food? Ningxi coughed slightly. It shouldn't be. I think, maybe I ate too much. Just now after I drank a large glass of orange juice, I already felt there was something wrong with my stomach. Only at this moment did Lu Tingxiao realize that she had eaten almost all of the many dishes on the table, not to mention that she had drunk such a large glass of juice. Lu Tingxiao immediately got angry. Ningxi, are you an idiot? You ate so much but you didn't realize you were overdoing it? Ningxi was angrier than he was. Wasn't that because of you? You scared me to the point that I kept eating to calm down. You finished all the wine by yourself, not leaving even one drop for me. So the only thing I could drink was orange juice. And you actually scold me for this. After saying that, she clutched her stomach and howled even more miserably. Lu Tingxiao instantly stopped being angry and hastily placated her. It's my fault. I'll send you to the hospital right now. Hearing his words, Ningxi looked embarrassed. What? Let's not. Going to the hospital in the middle of the night because of overeating is too humiliating. Is face more important than your body? As he spoke, Lu Tingxiao grabbed his wallet and phone, then quickly lifted her by the waist. Ningxi immediately waved her hands. Erg. Lu Tingxiao, no, switch to a different position. Maybe it's better if you just help me walk slowly. This position makes me more uncomfortable. You. Lu Tingxiao was both angry and concerned, and could only put her down and carefully help her walk out. When they reached the hospital's emergency room, Ningxi's clothes and hair were wet with sweat. Because Ningxi had been clutching her stomach and Lu Tingxiao had an expression suggesting that the sky was about to collapse, a nurse immediately met them and gave Ningxi a hand. Is the baby coming? Quick! Get onto the stretcher. Ningxi lifted the mask she had been wearing to avoid being recognized, and with black lines on her head, explained, No, that's not it, sister nurse. I overeat. The nurse was speechless for a second, then looked down at her stomach and realized that it was only protruding a little and in fact wasn't like the stomach of a pregnant woman. For stomach issues, please turn left. Thank you. At midnight, after a period of torment, Ningxi's diagnosis finally came out. She had acute gastritis caused by overeating and stress within a short period of time. Lu Tingxiao touched the girl's pale cheek as she lay in the hospital bed, his own face full of pain. Does it still hurt? Ningxi nodded bitterly. Yes, but it's not as bad as before. That, Lu Tingxiao, there's one thing. What is it? Tell me. Ningxi hesitated for a moment, then embarrassedly said, Seems like the ring scraped and broke the skin on one side of my gum. I didn't feel anything earlier, but now it hurts a lot. Lu Tingxiao facepalmed and didn't know whether to cry or laugh. He ruffled her hair. Wait for me. I'll get you some medicine. After Lu Tingxiao left, Ningxi let out her a long breath of air and then stroked her round stomach. She never expected her stomach would work so hard during a critical moment. But the feeling of overeating was really uncomfortable. She never wanted to feel it for a second time in her whole life. Before, there had been times when she had been too busy to eat, and as a result, had once also gotten a sudden acute case of gastritis at midnight. Check new CHDers at novilbin.com. The difference was that at that time, she couldn't get a taxi at midnight, so she rode her motorbike to the hospital herself, registered herself, got her medicine herself, and sat on a cold bench in the corridor within 4 drip by herself. Lu Tingxiao came back quickly. He sat down on the edge of the bed with the medicine and opened the bottle and said seriously, This medicine is topical. Open your mouth and I'll help you put it on your wound. Ningxi obediently opened her mouth, but her tongue accidentally touched it, and she frowned. Bitter. Endure it for a bit, don't touch it. Oh. After applying the medicine, Lu Tingxiao looked at her with gentle eyes and said softly, Teacher. A little startled, Ningxi was blank for a bit before she realized that he was calling her. Ah. I'm sorry. Lu Tingxiao sighed softly with self-reproach, then took her hand and gently kissed the back of it. Blame the student who has no skill, causing you to get hurt. Ning Shi's heart skipped a beat. Damn, 60%, 61, 62, 63, it continued increasing. How is this no skill? He was obviously a prodigy. Ning Shi shook her head and quickly ended the dangerous and ambiguous teacher-student talk. She then switched to employee mode, raised her hand, and said primly, "Boss, I would like to apply for a period of consideration without disturbances." After thinking about it, Lu Tingxiao agreed without reservation. "Granted, how many days do you want?" Ning Shi counted with her fingers, then said weakly, can I count in years?" "I'll give you 7 days." Lu Tingxiao ignored her unreasonable request and made the decision for her. "Okay, 7 days it is. Then, after I leave the hospital tomorrow, can I stay at my apartment for the time being?" "You just agreed, no disturbances. Little Treasure isn't home, and I need to be at the company the day after tomorrow, and the apartment's a little closer to it." Ning Shi did her best to give a legitimate reason. "You can." Lu Tingxiao nodded without the slightest hesitation. That was it? When he suddenly stopped tripping her up, she was not used to it. Most up-to-date NVELs are published on n0velgen.co/m. Ning Shi narrowed her eyes, a fox-like expression on her face. It seemed she had discovered the best way to deal with the big demon king's tricks. To bet on her own health? Was it because earlier, the doctor had said that she shouldn't put too much stress on herself? This only worked because he cared for her too much. When she thought this, the number in her heart shot up to 80%. Next day. Because her condition wasn't serious, Ning Shi was discharged from the hospital in the morning. As he promised, Lu Tingxiao sent her to her apartment, stopping by the supermarket on the way to buy things to fill up the fridge with, and ordered 3 meals every day for her, warning her repeatedly to watch what she ate. Ning Shi sat on the sofa, watching Lu Tingxiao go back and forth busily. After checking the fridge, he still stood there trying to think if he had missed anything. Ning Shi couldn't take it anymore, and coughed lightly. "Lu Tingxiao, no need to trouble yourself anymore, I can take care of myself." Lu Tingxiao turned and walked towards her. "Then I'm heading out." Even as he said that, his face was still full of worry, as if she was a 3-year-old kid who couldn't do anything for herself at all. Ning Shi struggled to keep the number inside her heart unchanged. You sure you're all right now?" Yes. My stomach isn't hurting at all anymore. My body recovers very fast." That's good." Lu Tingxiao's eyes grew darker, and he nodded in satisfaction. Ning Shi. There was nothing wrong with what she'd said, but why did she feel like she had been tricked? She was lost in thought when Lu Tingxiao suddenly leaned in towards her, but before he got close, he stopped halfway, then retreated a bit. He stretched out one hand to rub the top of her head. "No disturbances. Ning Shi. You are disturbing me already." She finally understood, this person didn't need to do anything, his existence was a huge disturbance itself. After Lu Tingxiao left, Ning Shi finally completely relaxed. She hugged a pillow in her arms and fell into a daze on the sofa, thinking about everything that had happened lately. In the end, things had still come to this point. She had had a premonition, and she had also been prepared, but now that they were here, her brain was still blank and everything was a confused mess. She gave her a score of 0 for this appearance of hers. Actually, she planned in the beginning to say some deliberately brutal things to make Lu Tingxiao give up on her. But when she looked at his face, she couldn't say a single word, and her originally resolute heart was starting to waver. What she had always thought would never happen was slowly starting to change. No wonder there had been incapable rulers in their history. Beauty was dangerous. Next morning, in Lin Gigi's office at Glory World Entertainment. Sister Gigi, I'm not late, am I? Ningxi had rested at her apartment the whole day yesterday and was pretty much fully recovered. It was only that she still looked a little wan, so today she had chosen to wear a trendy outfit with a bold combination of colors to brighten her skin, making her look young and energetic. In front of the desk in the office, Lin Gigi as usual did not have a single strand of hair out of place. She wore a suit jacket and an A-line skirt in cool colors and was working on some documents. Seeing that Ningxi had come, she sized her up first before raising her head. No need to be nervous, it's nothing important today, I just wanted to show you around the company before shooting starts tomorrow. Even if you normally won't come to the company often, you still need to be familiar with the company's basic department structure. Okay, thank you, Sister Gigi. Let's go. Ningxi nodded and followed her out. With Lin Gigi's guidance, she familiarized herself with each company department and met a few of her new colleagues. Whatever they thought inside, on the outside, everyone was polite to her. Even though everyone tacitly understood that this was a battle between Glory World and Starlight, and Ningxi was the company's weapon in striking at Starlight, it was the undeniable truth that the company was prepared to nurture Ningxi, so nobody wanted to court bad luck by harassing her during this critical period, when public opinion of her was flourishing. Follow the latest novels n/velbin.com. Tut, this Ningxi is even better looking in person, no wonder second young master likes her. I have a feeling, as long as her EQ is not too low, she'll definitely become a hit. That's hard to say. Ling Manyun just left, do you think people will allow her to make it big so easily? Anyway, do you think she and Lin Gigi will get along? Doesn't Lin Gigi hate those type of actresses the most, the ones who rely on their good looks to climb their way up? The company was actually pretty big, and Ningxi followed Lin Gigi for more than an hour before they completed the tour. As they were about to take a look at the film sets and recording studios behind the company, they unexpectedly ran into someone in the corridor. Yo! Isn't this our big manager Lin? Finally stopped becoming a hermit? I thought you wouldn't be coming back to the industry after your setback. The woman speaking was around 30 years old. She wore sexy and trendy clothes. Her hair was in big waves, and she had exquisite makeup on. She was dressed up even more magnificently than any star. Because she often appeared in newspapers and magazines, and she had seen her from a distance on production sets several times before, Ningxi instantly recognized that this was Su Yimo's manager, Zhao Meixin. Faced with Zhao Meixin's provocative words, Lin Gigi's eyebrows didn't even twitch, and she said blandly, with Sister Meixin still working hard, how can we youngsters slow down? Zhao Meixin was pissed. On the side, Ningxi struggled not to laugh out loud. She hadn't expected that Lin Gigi, who looked inflexible and severe, to have such a vicious tongue. Zhao Meixin ground her teeth and humphed coldly. Lin Gigi, I didn't think you would do well to begin with, but I can't not admit that you have some skill, being able to raise Ling Manyun that plain nobody up to such a high level. But now... Zhao Meixin deliberately paused, and glanced disdainfully at Ningxi. After Ling Manyun, you went and found yourself such a flower vase, who besides scandals and her looks, doesn't have one good thing about her. I remember that you hate artistes who rely on their good looks the most. So? Have you fallen so low now? Ningxi narrowed her eyes slightly after hearing this. This was already not the first time that she had heard other people say that Lin Gigi hated artistes like her. It was impossible to say that she didn't care. After all, this was the person who would fight this battle with her in the future. If their beliefs were incompatible from the beginning, how would they be able to continue cooperating later? Lin Jiji noticed the worry that flashed through Ningxi's eyes. She looked at Zhao Meixin and said evenly, "It seems that Sister Meixin has misunderstood something about me. Everyone knows that being beautiful is a gift in this industry. It's the golden meal ticket from God, the one thing other people can ask for but won't get. Why would I hate it? What I hate are the flower vases who have the looks but lack substance and professionalism. Everyone loves beautiful things. I'm sure Sister Meixin understands this point the best, right?" After hearing this, Zhao Meixin's expression changed. What she would understand the best? This was obviously a jab at her. She used to be an actress, but because she hadn't been attractive enough, she had struggled to turn herself around to become a manager. She still cared a lot about her looks now, and often got facials and minor cosmetic operations done. This damn Lin Jiji, either she didn't talk much, or everything she said were jabs into her flesh. It was really true that the dogs that don't bark are the ones that bite the hardest. Are you so sure she isn't just a flower vase? Zhao Meixin laughed coldly. Explore Ta-Ti stories at no/l/bin.cm. Whether she is or not will be demonstrated through her work, and not judged based on her looks, the way Sister Meixin has done. With that, Lin Jiji walked directly past her and left. Behind them, Zhao Meixin stomped off in anger. After that short encounter, all of the gloominess in Ningxi's heart was swept away, and she bounced happily after Lin Jiji. "Sister Jiji, you were so cool just now. You give off such a safe feeling. But don't worry, I'm definitely not a flower vase, and even if I am at the very least a blue and white porcelain vase with ocean waves, lucky clouds and dragon patterns on it from the Qing Qianlong dynasty. A coexistence of good looks and strength." Lin Jiji gave her a look, the corners of her mouth twitching imperceptibly. "You better practice what you preach. Filming starts tomorrow. When the time comes, I'll accompany you there. Also, it won't be just me, the production crew will open the set to the media, so there will be a lot of reporters. I've emailed you the latest script and shooting schedule. You also know, you have an important scene tomorrow, and it'll really test your acting skills. This is your first battle, make sure you're prepared for it." Actually, during this period, she had already studied Ningxi's resume and works, and found that this girl's acting was actually not bad, so she was looking forward to tomorrow's scene. "Got it, I will do my best." As she spoke, Ningxi secretly looked Lin Jiji up and down. No matter how she looked, Lin Jiji appeared a very reliable person, and the more Ningxi thought about it, the more she felt regret on her behalf. How could a woman like Sister Jiji fall for Jiang Mai, that unreliable, fickle golden retriever? Because Lin Jiji was still busy with other things, Xiao Tao took Ningxi around on the rest of the tour. Xiao Tao was very lively, and talked non-stop. Ningxi learned a lot of company gossip from her. When Sister Mannion left, Su Yimo and Zhao Meixin were the happiest about it, since they don't have any rivals anymore. Su Yimo is a bigger name than Sister Mannion, but look at what she's acted in, they're all trashy commercial films. Most of Sister Mannion's movies might have been art films, but they received so many international awards because of them. She is simply in a class above Su Yimo, alright? But it can't be helped. Who asked Su Yimo's backer to be so strong? She clearly doesn't have the ability, but shamelessly holds the #1 actress title at Glory World. Su Yimo's backer is very strong? Ningxi asked. Of course. Sister Shi, you don't know? Xiao Tao was astonished, then she sidled closer to whisper in her ear, Su Yimo's backer is our CEO Lu. Of course. Sister Shi, you don't know? Xiao Tao was astonished, then she sidled closer to whisper in her ear, Su Yimo's backer is our boss Lu. CEO Lu? Don't you mean Lu Jingli? Ningxi's first thought was of Lu Jingli, It was obvious how little integrity Lu Jingli had in her heart. Xiao Tao shook her head, then pointed her finger upward, meaning the person above Lu Jingli. Now Ningxi was really surprised, and she lifted an eyebrow. Lu Tingxiao? Xiao Tao nodded vigorously, looked around, and said, "Not so loud, as long as you know about it." Ningxi stroked her chin. "But why hasn't anybody dropped this bomb? There's not even a hint of it outside. Who wants to die, if they dare make noise about the big boss? So only people in the company know about this." Xiao Tao explained. "I see." Not waiting for Ningxi to ask for more details, Xiao Tao already couldn't hold herself back and straightaway started telling her all the gossip. At first, Su Yimo was just a second-tier, third-tier actress. There were so many bigger names above her. In the end, nobody knows how she hooked up with our big boss and obtained his favor. In a short while, all the company resources were presented to her to choose from, and she straightaway went up like a rocket. The more Xiao Tao spoke, the angrier she became. "Our sister Manyun took 10 years to get to where she is today, but ended up being overshadowed by her like that. It's so unfair." Ningxi listened to the way Xiao Tao described the rumors as if they were fact. She was sure that it was true. The only thing she didn't know was what kind of relationship Lu Tingxiao and Su Yimo had. Though Xiao Tao hadn't said it clearly, but from her tone, it sounded like they had slept together. But given her understanding of Lu Tingxiao, Ningxi naturally couldn't believe all of Xiao Tao's gossip. Xiao Tao, who had been talking non-stop, suddenly realized that talking about someone else's might wasn't proper, so she rushed to comfort Ningxi, cough, "But Sister Shi, your backer is also very amazing. You were brought in by our second young master after all." Read latest OVLS at nv/e/l/buy. Com. Though Xiao Tao said this, she still sounded a little disappointed. She used to be Ling Manyun's assistant, and this time had moved with Lin Zhizhi together to work with Ningxi. When she had been with Ling Manyun, everyone showed her respect, but Ningxi was a nobody compared with Ling Manyun, and as her assistant now, thinking about how from now on, she would have to lower her head whenever she saw Su Yimo's manager and assistant, it was hard to avoid the unfairness she felt in her heart. There was no way Ningxi could have missed the disappointment on Xiao Tao's face, but Xiao Tao's reaction was a normal one, so she didn't take it personally. But, that thing with Su Yimo, she couldn't let it pass that easily. After all, during these 7 important days, any tiny detail could affect her decision. Consequently, since Ningxi had no time to figure it out herself, she took her phone out directly and texted Lu Tingxiao. "What is your relationship with Su Yimo?" At the same time, Lu Corporation. Lu Tingxiao was in a meeting when his cell phone suddenly beeped. As he continued to listen to his subordinate's report, Lu Tingxiao took a look at his phone. Then, all the employees sitting in the meeting room witnessed something that only happened once every 1,000 years. When their lord boss, who almost never smiled when he was at the company, looked at his phone, his face relaxed, and he let out a delighted laugh. Meeting adjourned. With 2 words, Lu Tingxiao took up his phone and walked out of the meeting room. Ningxi was waiting for Lu Tingxiao to text her a reply, and was startled when he directly called her back instead. Ningxi let Xiao Tao know she was picking up a call, then hurriedly found an empty corner to do so. "Hello. I saw your text." Lu Tingxiao sounded happy. All West ch.rs on n.o/vi/n/.cm. Ningxi picked at the ceramic tiles on the wall with her fingernail. Oh. When she had sent the text, she hadn't thought anything about it, but why did she now feel that something was off? Jealous? Lu Tingxiao's low, rough voice came through the line. Cough 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 cough. Ningxi was so alarmed by the word that she burst into furious coughing, then said angrily, "Who's jealous?" "I was thinking that it was important to be clear about the relationships inside the company, so I just asked, that's all." F asterisk asterisk asterisk. No wonder she felt something was off. It looked like she was jealous. If it was just a random question, then I refuse to answer, Lu Tingxiao said. Ha! Ningxi was struck dumb. Never in a million years had she expected that Lu Tingxiao could actually be so childish. Then what do you want, before you'll tell me? Lu Tingxiao, recall my question. Which question? About being jealous? Actually. When she heard Xiao Tao guessing that it was an intimate relationship, and she thought about Lu Tingxiao with another woman, in her heart, she had in fact felt a little uncomfortable. But how could she admit that? So Ningxi said casually, forget it, if you don't want to answer, I'll just believe that you're sleeping with Su Yimo. Just that can directly send your score down to 0. Lu Tingxiao sighed, and helplessly compromised. Don't worry, there's nothing between us, you don't need to be concerned with her in the company. Then why do people say that you are her backer? And all the resources she had, didn't you ask people to give them to her? Ningxi didn't understand. I am your private backer, Lu Tingxiao answered. Her face hot, Ningxi immediately said seriously, answer the question. Don't mess around. Lu Tingxiao laughed. Hey. And no laughing. Lu Tingxiao finally stopped teasing her and coughed softly. I did give the order, but I had nothing to do with it after that. The reason I gave that order was because you could say that she saved Little Treasure's life once. What? What happened to Little Treasure? Ningxi instantly became anxious as she asked. Before, in order for him to socialize more, I tried sending him to school. In the end, he lost control of his emotions and ran outside, and almost got hit by a car. Fortunately, another car at that time suddenly rushed out and hit that car, saving Little Treasure's life. The person driving that car was Su Yimo. She had been driving drunk, which was why her car had rushed out like that. So through a strange combination of events, she saved Little Treasure's life. Ningxi was struck dumb by each thing that she heard. Sheet! I really don't know who was the lucky one, Little Treasure or Su Yimo. So to repay her, you gave that order? She could understand why Lu Tingxiao had done it. Even if she had saved Little Treasure by accident and not by design, she had still saved him. Yes. TCH, she actually really saved Little Treasure's life. That time, why didn't you repay her with yourself? Lu Tingxiao killed her with one stroke, do you think I would do that for just anyone? As if that wasn't enough, Lu Tingxiao gave her yet another cold-blooded stab. What's my score now? How can I tell you that? You think I'm dumb? I'm hanging up. My assistant's waiting for me. Ningxi hung up quickly. She was pathetic. As expected, she shouldn't have any contact with Lu Tingxiao for now. On his end, when Lu Tingxiao finished speaking to Ningxi on the phone, the smile on his face still hadn't faded. Suddenly on the side, a big face popped into view, complaining bitterly. Brother, tell me, are you hiding something from me? Lu Tingxiao didn't deny it and lifted an eyebrow. That obvious? Lu Jingli was struck a blow, and he almost lay down to roll around on the floor. Arg, you really are keeping something from me. I'm your brother, your best right-hand man, your warm jacket. How can you hide things from me? Aren't you very good at guessing? Huh. Fine, I'll guess, then. Lu Jingli paced back and forth in the room. After 3 minutes, he stopped abruptly and looked in Lu Tingxiao's direction. The day before yesterday, you deliberately sent Little Treasure away. At that time, that was 2 days before Ningxi would start work, and she would be busy getting ready for it, which meant that you didn't have much time either, so these 2 days, you would definitely do something big. Something big, Don't tell me it was a confession? Lu Tingxiao, go on. Did that mean he had guessed right? Lu Jingli's eyes lit up, and he continued guessing. The result? Most likely you failed. Otherwise, how could you still be at the company? You would definitely be in bed. Lu Tingxiao. In the end, Lu Jingli made a finger gun at him and concluded confidently, there can only be one truth. You confessed. Xiao Shishi didn't accept it, but she didn't reject you either, and she's thinking about it. Furthermore, the possibility at the moment that she will give you a positive reply is very high. That's why you're in such a good mood. Lu Tingxiao looked at his little brother's glowing face, and the corners of his mouth twitched with imperceptible gentleness. He had an aloof personality and was bad at getting along with people. Even his emotional connection to his own biological parents was very thin. The only exception was this little brother. When other people avoided him and were afraid of him, only his little brother would follow him around the whole time. He never cared or got angry that Lu Tingxiao, who always had a cold face on, he went right on making his own guesses since Lu Tingxiao didn't like talking, and when it came to Lu Tingxiao, he always guessed right. Lu Tingxiao already felt that he was blessed, and had never expected that destiny would also allow him to encounter Ningxi. Next day. From midsummer to early autumn, after experiencing so many ups and downs, the production crew of The World was finally about to start shooting again. See check out LTSTVL on novl/bin.cm. Because of changes to the script, Ning Xuelua and Zhao Xizhou had much fewer scenes, and the 3 remaining fight scenes which Ning Xuelua and Ningxi had yet to shoot had also been taken out, meaning that from now on, Ningxi would no longer encounter Ning Xuelua on set. That was a huge weight off Ningxi's shoulders, and she could finally focus on her acting. Today they would mainly be filming 2 climatic scenes with Ningxi and Jiang Mai. It wasn't just Ningxi's manager Lin Zhizhi who had come. Jiang Mai's manager Lei Ming had also made an appearance, which was telling of how important these 2 scenes were. Ningxi and Jiang Mai arrived at almost the same time. Hello, senior brother Jiang. Ningxi greeted him sweetly, obediently changing her address of him from senior Jiang to senior brother Jiang. Hello, junior sister. Seeing Ningxi act like a good little girl gave Jiang Mai goosebumps, and he shuddered. After that, his gaze swept carelessly over the person standing next to Ningxi, Lin Zhizhi. Lin Zhizhi was speaking to Lei Ming, and took no notice of Jiang Mai's gaze at all. When she was done, she turned to Ningxi. Ningxi, I have some things to discuss with Brother Ming. Please go through your scenes with your senior brother. Okay. Sister Zhizhi, you go ahead. As soon as she had obediently sent Lin Zhizhi off, Ningxi instantly returned to her demon self, and she looked at Jiang Mai mockingly. Tut tut tut, golden retriever, see it, did you see it just not? After I found out that Sister Zhizhi was your ex-girlfriend, for a long time I felt so sad and regretful for her. I was worried when the 2 of you met, she would be embarrassed. In the end, our sister Zhizhi didn't even spare you a glance. So cool. I'm really liking her more and more. Jiang Mai ground his teeth and stared at her angrily. Who the hell told you that she's my ex-girlfriend? Ningxi blinked at him. Didn't you say it yourself? F***** off. I never said anything like that, you made it up yourself. Who asked you to have such an easily misunderstood expression? Ningxi grumbled. After that, she became even more curious. Even if she's not your ex-girlfriend, what on earth happened between the 2 of you? Why are you so tense around her? When have I ever been tense around her? Ning Xiaoxi, can you stop imagining nonsense? Jiang Mai was tormented almost to the point of collapse. In order to get the truth out of him, Ningxi used a gentler, placating tone. Okay, I'll stop imagining things, so tell me yourself. What on earth happened? What else could have happened? She just used to manage me, that's all. Jiang Mai flipped through the script in his hand crossly. Ningxi was stunned and widened her eyes. No way, Sister Gigi managed you? She was your manager? Check out LTSTVL on novl/bin.cm. Jiang Mai gave her a disdainful look. What, got a problem with that? What was that expression on her face? Ningxi shook her head and sighed, that is even more pitiful than being your ex-girlfriend. Jiang Mai's wild personality was well known in the industry. None of the assistants that worked for him had lasted over a week. The reason why Lei Ming, this manager, hadn't been switched out after so long was because, despite his burly appearance which made him look a little fierce, he had a very good character and was very patient, and so was able to work with Jiang Mai for this long. Ningxi felt relieved knowing that Lin Zhizhi and Jiang Mai hadn't been involved in that way. Otherwise, if something went wrong in this love triangle, it would be very easy for things to become awkward between the three of them. At this time, Xiao Tao had someone bring over a super luxurious deck chair. Sister Shi, use this. On set, only the male and female leads or the actors with a higher status could enjoy this privilege. Ningxi used to sit on a little wooden stool in a corner, or on a normal chair at the most. She never expected that she would one day actually experience this kind of treatment. Thank you for your hard work, Xiao Tao. Ningxi said gratefully. Even though Xiao Tao had been feeling sorry for herself since Lin Manyun left the industry, and she was also not satisfied with her lot in life at the moment, she was still dedicated to her work. Want to run some lines? Ningxi raised her script and asked, determined to carry out her lord manager's orders. Run lines, my ass. I didn't sleep the whole night. I need a nap. Leave me alone. Jiang Mai covered his face with his script and promptly went to sleep. Ningxi silently lit a candle for Lei Ming, and after that, rejoiced for Lin Zhizhi, who had already luckily escaped from this abyss of suffering. Even when getting makeup done, Jiang Mai had his eyes closed, and he slept all the way to the start of filming. Director Guo was already calling for everyone to take their places, and he was still sleeping. Ningxi couldn't take it anymore, and kicked his chair. Only then did Jiang Mai slowly wake up. Today, they would be shooting a fight scene from a battle. Meng Changa's elder brother had been killed by the incompetent emperor and the enabling Princess Xian. Little overlord Meng Changa grew up overnight, put on armor, and entered the battlefield, hence starting her long military career. The general's mansion had undergone a huge transformation, and Chang'an City no longer had a little overlord. Top VL updates on n/o/v/lb/in.com. After Meng Changa left, Sun Huanqing finally realized his feelings for her, and resolutely followed Meng Changa onto the battlefield, becoming a military doctor. Normally, a film was shot in order of which backlit the crew was currently on, not according to the development of the story itself. Therefore, they jumped a whole 7 years to today's scene, when Meng Changa had made a name for herself through her outstanding military achievements and NDSP, even surpassing her father and elder brother's accomplishments. Incited by his treacherous ministers and Princess Xian, the emperor had started to fear Meng Changa. He had demanded that she relinquish control of the military, and in order to restrain her, had also arranged her marriage to the incompetent 12th prince. Naturally, Meng Changa would rather die first. And so, during a battle, she encountered the same fate that had befallen her elder brother. She wasn't defeated by the enemy, but set up by her own people. They lacked supplies, and no reinforcements arrived. After a while, they fell into despair. Finally, the ultimate battle for life was at hand. On set, all the staff members were in their places, and the reporters who had been previously invited had all arrived. No one was more nervous than director Guo Qixing. If anything went wrong again this time, he would really bang his head to death. Naturally, he wasn't worried about Ningxi, but earlier, just as they were about to start, he had seen Jiang Mai still sleeping, as if his condition wasn't very good. It was really stressing him out, AI. Okay. Ready, set. Action. After Guo Qixing yelled action, Ning Shi, who at the last second had still been discussing with Xiao Tao what to eat for lunch, instantly transformed. Dead bodies littered the battlefield, only half of her men were left. Meng Changge was covered in blood, her eyes were scarlet and her face was murderous. She was a weapon on the move, meet God, kill God, meet Buddha, kill Buddha. The moment when her strength almost failed her, and she was attacked from behind, suddenly, the thin figure of a man in blue rushed over as he shouted in warning. Changge! Watch out! Only with the man's warning was Meng Changge able to avoid the sneak attack, but when she saw who it was, she was instantly furious. With one bloody hand, she grabbed the man by his collar. You're in the way. Who said you could be here? Leave! Sun Huanqing didn't move. I'm not leaving. If you die, I die. Meng Changge flung him back hard, her face full of ridicule and disdain. If I tell you to leave, you leave. A pretty boy without even the strength to truss up a chicken, what makes you think you are qualified to die with me? Sun Huanqing stood up from the mud and sand, and with a flash of a silver needle, he slit a man's throat open, blood splattering his fair skin. At this moment, he didn't have the compassionate eyes of a doctor, only a cold, killing intent. How about now? He asked, looking stubborn and determined. Meng Changge turned her head away, a struggle on her face. At that instant, countless, complicated emotions flashed across Ning Shi's face. At last, she sighed heavily. You, forget it, do as you like, but don't expect me to protect you. Jiang Mai stretched out a hand to gently wipe away the blood on Ning Shi's face. His expression was tender and loving, and on a battlefield of smoke and blood, it was like a blossoming white lotus. Changge, I am your man, I should be the one protecting you. Cut. In one take. Everyone watching burst into applause. The reporters looked like they were about to clap their hands off. This scene was an action scene and also an emotional one, so it could be said to be very complex. Absolutely nobody expected it to be completed in one take, so everyone was very pleased and surprised. God! Jiang Mai was just so cool. I thought acting as a weak doctor this time would ruin his image. In the end, it was such a surprise. That's right, that's right. Jiang Mai's broken out of his stereotypical roles. I also feel that his acting this time has progressed a lot. I don't care about the male lead anymore, I only want to see more scenes of my doctor son. Especially his last line just now, I am your man. Don't you think that was too moving? So deep with emotion. Me too, I feel the same. Before, when he said similar lines to other actresses in emotional scenes like this, I always felt something was missing. Now I finally understand, it's feeling. Jiang Mai this time was acting with feeling. Nearby, Guo Qixing was so excited he was about to cry, and he hugged his assistant director. So touched. He never expected things to go this smoothly. The response from the reporters was also especially good. It was a brilliant start. In the lounge. Pleased with himself, Jiang Mai humphed. See? I told you there wouldn't be a problem. All of you were worried for nothing. Ning Shi tooted disdainfully. That was because your partner was this big sister. If it was someone else, with your shitty condition today, you don't believe you wouldn't have NG'd at least 20 times? Stop flattering yourself. If it was someone else. NG 19 times at the most. Jiang Mai said carelessly. Of course he knew it was because his partner was Ning Shi, which was the only reason why he could act without worry. He wasn't stupid. Ningxi's strongest ability wasn't just pressure acting, she was also able to instantly bring her partner into the story, and getting them to pass in one take. TCH, Ning Xiaoxi, this skill of yours is really abnormal. You're the perverted one. As they were trading insults, Lei Ming and Lin Zhizhi walked in. Lei Ming was very excited, and he happily poured Jiang Mai a drink and gave him some snacks. Not bad, not bad, you did great today, Mai. Totally exceeded my expectations. You must keep this up. CHCK for US Tirais on no/v/l/bin.c0m. Seeing how Mai was being praised, Ningxi wasn't happy, and she looked at Lin Zhizhi like a cheeky kid who wanted candy. Sister Zhizhi, what about me, what about me? Lin Zhizhi wasn't as excited as Lei Ming, but was obviously very satisfied. Very nicely done, but don't get cocky, the next scene is the most important one for you. Understood. Ningxi was already more than happy to get a very nicely done. Nearby, Jiang Mai gave Lin Zhizhi a sideway glance before turning his head away to mutter, who would have thought, after all these years, the tigress would turn gentle. You were never this gentle with me. At this time, Lin Zhizhi finally looked at him and said emotionlessly, put yourself in my shoes, if you were me, would you be able to be gentle with yourself? Jiang Mai choked. F*******. Had he really been that much of an asshole back then? Seemed like he had been pretty bad, and he was still an asshole now. After thinking about it carefully, if he was Lin Zhizhi, he would really want to punch himself. At this moment, the reporters outside were all anxious to interview Ningxi and Jiang Mai, but were stopped by the director, who told them that they would be given enough time to do interviews after shooting was done, so everyone quietened down after that. The word bian tai in Chinese can mean both abnormal and perverted. After a break, shooting for the second scene began. Why was this scene the highlight? It was the most torturous scene, and the climax in the whole movie, the important turning point for Meng Changge entering the palace for revenge. This was a crucial turning point, which directly set up Meng Changge's character as well as the audience's perception of her for the second half of the movie. Because of the huge disparity in strength between the two armies, Meng Changge had still lost this battle. She had watched with her own eyes her right-hand man, who had been through fire and water with her, go down under an enemy's horse, his neck broke. She had watched with her own eyes her beloved little brother beheaded by the enemy, his head raised on the tip of a sword as an insult. She had been separated from Sun Huanqing in the middle of the battle, and by the time she found him, she saw him pierced through by the enemy's arrows. She hadn't even been able to bid him goodbye. Huanqing. The last string in Meng Changge's heart snapped completely, broken, she dashed over, rolling and crawling. She slumped to the ground, staring blankly at the body full of arrows in her arms, before screaming in utter despair. Get the L-test VLS at .o/v/e/l/by.co. Tears streamed down her cheeks, creating two wet trails through the blood which covered her face. Everyone jolted with shock at Ningxi's sudden outburst. They had all been brought into the story and NBSP, their minds and hearts fully engaged. In the next second, Meng Changge picked up her sword and fought wildly with the rest of the enemy. Though the enemy outnumbered her, they were weak before her demonic fury, and she slaughtered almost 100 of them single-handedly. Ningxi didn't use a stunt double, and acted the fight scenes herself. Her emotions were on point and her movements beautiful, and she exuded an exquisitely tragic air. After the battle was over, she was the only living person left on the vast battlefield. The entire battlefield was covered with blood and layer on layer of dead bodies, and the enemy's broken flag fluttered in the wind. Tottering, Meng Changge clutched at her chest before falling to her knees. She gasped for breath, her spirit weary and her strength exhausted. After her extreme sorrow and rage were spent, she gently lifted her beloved's head so that it rested on her knees, and cleaned off the dirt on his face with an emotionless expression. This moment of silence was for post-editing to put together a series of images depicting memories of the two of them, but Ningxi's expression was enough to touch the audience even without images of the memories. The silence also wasn't obtrusive, but made everyone follow the subtle changes in her expression as she recalled all the little details of her and Sun Huanqing together from the moment they met. Shortly after, the memories ended. Meng Changa's eyes were empty as she stared into the distance. That look crossed the battlefield, the snow mountains and grasslands, and over an endless desert, to a flourishing capital city. It flew over the palace walls into a palace hall full of artifice and treachery, and wandered into the golden palace of rotten pleasures, coming to rest at last on a corrupted emperor and his evil consort. As if a strong gust of wind rife with the smell of blood had blown by, she lifted her chin and closed her eyes. Gradually, the corners of her rosy, blood-red lips lifted unhurriedly, like peach blossoms flowering in winter. Mystical and extremely beautiful. A smile that could level cities. In the next second, that general who had protected families and guarded the country had already died. Born in her place was an enchantress who would destroy a nation and its people. Generations of the Meng family had been loyal to the country, her father, her 3 elder brothers, her youngest little brother, the love of her life. They had all died on the battlefield, while the emperor that she had dedicated her service to, the people that she fought to protect, were forcing her step by step towards her death. This family, this country, this world, why did it deserve her protection? If that was the case, then, let it all come to ruin. All the deep and resounding grief, the pain and hatred that wouldn't fade, with just one sinister smile, Ningxi was able to convey it all. This time, everyone was utterly silent. Until the end of the shoot, no one dared to make a sound, not even to breathe loudly, afraid of disturbing that sad, beautiful soul. There were even a number of people whose eyes had turned red, and their tears fell without them realizing it. It wasn't until director Gui Qixing signaled that filming had ended and the site started to clear that everyone suddenly came back to their senses and recovered from the sorrow. Holy shit, I actually cried while watching the scene. Wah wah, so did I, so did I. My heart felt so heavy. Dr. Sun. My Dr. Sun actually died. Ningxi's acting is just too awesome. I realize now that extras clip they released was just a drop in the bucket. And I finally understand why Gui Qixing stood his ground and insisted on using her. Why isn't Ningxi the female lead? Compared with the endlessly virtuous and moral female lead, Shang Wangingrong, Meng Chang'e, this character is much more profound. In the dressing room, the pain and murderous aura around Ningxi hadn't faded after her makeup had been removed, to the extent that Xiao Tao, who brought her lunch, didn't dare approach her. At this moment, Jiang Mai pushed the door open and entered. Used to the situation, he said, "Leave the food here, and leave her alone, she'll be fine after a while." Oh. Only then did Xiao Tao put down the boxed lunch and scurry off, still a little frightened. Ningxi's appearance just now was really terrifying, as if she had been possessed. About 5 minutes later, Ningxi got rid of her possessed state, and quickly came back to her senses. She stretched, twisted her neck, and complained, "I went too deep this time, I almost couldn't come back." Jiang Mai looked askance at her with a black face. Can't you be content? Other people who want to act at your level would need at least several months to come back. Some might even go crazy with it. But for you, you came back in less than an hour, what more do you want? You beast! Because he had been dead the whole time in the scene just now, he didn't know how Ningxi had done. When he especially went to watch the playback, he had been completely stunned. He almost felt Ningxi's love for him, as deep as the ocean and which would last forever. Where's my sister Gigi? I haven't asked Sister Gigi about her evaluation of me. Ningxi panicked. As soon as she said it, Lin Jiji pushed the door open just then and came in. She was looking at her watch, and she said with a rushed expression, "Ningxi, I'm going back to the company in the afternoon, will you be okay by yourself?" "Ah. So you're leaving?" Ningxi was a little disappointed. "Because I'm already not needed here," Ling Jiji said with a rare smile. Hearing her words, Ningxi was completely refreshed on the spot. This was undoubtedly the greatest affirmation of her skills and the greatest trust Sister Jiji had in her. "Then go ahead, go ahead. I'll be fine myself. I'll be good. If there's anything, contact me anytime." "Okay, I'll walk you out." After Ningxi walked Ling Jiji out and returned with a spring in her step, Jiang Mai looked at her disdainfully. "Look at your smarmy behavior. Follow you stories at n/velb/in.com. Ningxi returned his disdainful look. "You're just jealous that my relationship with Sister Jiji is so good. As a matter of fact, I need to thank you. It's because she had to endure scum like you that Sister Jiji cherishes me, this obedient baby, more." Jiang Mai sneered coldly, his expression saying that she was just too simple and naive. "Go ahead and be pleased with yourself. You're going to have a difficult time in the future. Do you think that woman is easygoing? When the time comes and you're tormented until you start crying for your parents, don't say I didn't warn you." The completion of the two main scenes was meant to take the whole day today, but because they were completed in one take, they wrapped up within half a day. Therefore, there was more than enough time for interviews in the afternoon. Ningxi and Jiang Mai had a good dynamic, and they basically answered all the questions they were asked. The reporters also gave them face, and didn't bring up any sensitive topics. Seeing that the atmosphere was very good, and after interviewing them about the movie, the reporters began to tentatively ask some personal questions. "Reporter Mai, I have a question which seems to be asked every time. I can't avoid asking it, and I also want to ask once, what type of girl do you like? In reality, would you like a stronger and more active girl like Meng Chang'e?" Jiang Mai cupped his chin in one hand, and thought for a bit. "I used to like the type that are like cute little birds, but as I've gotten older, I feel that an active and strong girl like Meng Chang'e is very brave and also very real." After asking Jiang Mai, the reporter naturally turned to Ningxi. "Then Ningxi, what kind of man do you like in reality? Or, what is your criteria for choosing a spouse? Mind telling us a little bit?" Ningxi's head hurt a bit, because such a conventional question was actually very difficult for her. She never wanted to get married, and had never thought about finding a spouse. How would she have criteria for that? But the instant the reporter had asked the question, the figure that had flashed through her mind for one quick second was. Ningxi shook her head, and concentrated on answering the reporter's question. "My criteria for a spouse are that he should be the same age as me, and share common interests and views." Luckily she had prepared for this question, so she was able to reply appropriately. This answer was not perfunctory, and it was also very reasonable. They shouldn't be able to find any fault with it. But at this moment, a female reporter said excitedly, "In that case, Mai meets at least two of your criteria. The first, Mai and you are of a similar age, and the third, you are both actors, so you should share the same views. As for the second, although at present we don't know whether your interests are the same, since two of the three are already the same, the possibility that you share the same interests is very high. FIDDEU UPTS on NOV/E/LN.com." Ningxi curled her lips and swatted the topic aside. Actually there are many who meet this criteria. It is all up to fate." Beside her, Jiang Mai also cracked a joke to head the topic off, and deliberately said, "Don't listen to her explanation, it's just a cover-up. She is actually using me, her senior brother, as her standard for a spouse." Ningxi played along and said, "Senior brother, Do your fans know how narcissistic you are? 2 hours later, the interview was over. Although the 2 gripping scenes which the reporters had seen today couldn't be released since it contained plot spoilers, it was fine to release a few clips and extras. Also, the interview had gone very smoothly and had been rich in content. Ningxi and Jiang Mai had a good dynamic in and outside of the movie. There was plenty to write about or broadcast, and all the reporters left feeling satisfied. After the reporters left, Ningxi stretched. I'm so tired. Today's battle has been successfully won. I'm going back to the hotel to sleep. Jiang Mai glanced at her. Hotel? Why are you staying in a hotel? Ningxi flipped through the thick script and sighed. It's not like you don't know how important my part is going to be later on, and I have quite a few night scenes. Running back and forth consumes too much energy, so I discussed it with Sister Gigi. During this period, I'll be living with the production crew. Well, that's all for this part, truckers. See you all in the next video.